They've been running two-stroke outboard engines for decades.
Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's a regular meeting of the City Council of Fort Walton Beach on Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. If you have a cell phone, if you please put it on vibrate or turn it off, that would be much appreciated. And then tonight I'm going to give the invocation, so if you'll stand with me, then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, I appreciate that. Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to gather this evening, and may this council meet and have productive discourse and keep the objectives of the city well in mind, and may the results of this evening be pleasing in your sight. Amen. Amen. Now we're going to have guests from the Native American Indian tribe.
Forward. March. Detail. Up.
Will you also lead us in the pledge?
Present. Colors.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Order. Colors. Okay. Rest.
Right. While these wonderful folks are here, let me remind everyone that the Native American or the Musical Echoes Festival is going to be the weekend of the 24th, 25th, Gail, correct me?
26, 27.
26, 27, 28 at the Landing, and they present a wonderful musical festival. And David, if you would take 45 seconds and give us a sample of that, what you might experience if you come to the Musical Echoes Festival. Thank you.
I also want to tell you, it's just not somebody standing up there playing a single flute. These people rock and roll too. And we got world champion dancers will be there as well, and it's all free.
Wonderful.
Detail. Okay. Forward. March.
Thank you.
I always appreciate it when they pay us a visit, so thank you. Everyone may be seated. These are town, unfortunately, yeah. You have to excuse my voice this evening. I'm battling laryngitis. That might be a good thing because I'll be quiet most of the evening if I can be. But Council, if we can go ahead and get approval of the agenda, a motion to approve, that would be great.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Been moved by Councilman Jeter and seconded by Councilman Meade to approve the agenda as presented. Any further comments? Comments? Council, please vote. So it's passed unanimously with 6 members present this evening. Councilman Allegretto is out of town. I have a proclamation for Native American Indian Heritage Week I'd like to read. I know they just walked out. I should have read them while they were still here. But, David, let me come down. I would like to read it and present it to you. Not my best proclamation voice, but we'll get through it.
That's why they gave you mine.
Whereas the Native American people have thrived on the Emerald Coast for centuries and have contributed to life in Northwest Florida for hundreds of years. And whereas the Indian Temple Mound Museum houses archaeological collections that celebrate the rich diversity of prehistoric cultures once found in our local area. And whereas modern Native American people continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of the city of Fort Walton Beach today. And whereas the heart of downtown Fort Walton Beach will once again come alive with Native American peoples celebrating and sharing their music, art, and culture at the Musical Echoes Native American Flute Festival. Now therefore I, Dick Reniers, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Fort Walton Beach, do hereby proclaim the week of April 22nd through April 28th, 2024 as Native American Indian Heritage Cultural Week in the city of Fort Walton Beach, and urge all citizens to observe this time with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. I especially urge all citizens to enjoy the festivities of Musical Echoes Native American Flute Festival at the Fort Walton Beach Landing beginning on Friday, April 26th through Sunday, April 28th. And witness swear I appear to set forth my hand. David, that sample of the music was fantastic.
Thank you.
And as you said, you taught us a little bit more about the Indian answers and...
Yeah,
Go ahead.
we've got this will be our 24th year. Is this all? The 24th year. And it's really a wonderful festival. We have world champion Native American dancers. And when I say world champion, they are world champion. They travel the entire world. Matter of fact, a couple of them, once they leave here on the 29th, they're staying home for 4 days, and they head to Germany, Denmark, and Italy. We have incredible entertainers. One of our entertainers, they consider her the body rape of Native Americans. We've got storytellers that'll be there. The stories are just incredible. We have incredible food that's going to be there. We have Nikki's world famous fry bread. That's the best fry bread you ever eat. People go, what's fry bread? Well, you got to come see. You're going to love it. But it's really a wonderful time for everybody, and it's free. It is non-alcoholic, so bring your children down too. But it starts Friday with a kids' day at 10:30 and runs till 8 o'clock on Friday and Saturday night. On Sunday, we have a silent auction. We have a raffle, and that's the money we use to keep things going each year. And like I said, this is the 24th year. And we really hope to see all y'all there. We really appreciate what the city's done for us. We really appreciate what the chamber has done for us. And I'd also like to say I have moved my store back downtown.
Yes, sir, thank you. One last thing, I know that Sunday morning you're going to open to the church service.
We have a church service at 10 o'clock.
And I have been to that service before, and it's...
Yeah, Doc Green will be performing that.
It's worthwhile. Hope everyone can show up for that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And thank all of y'all. Thank you all.
And I have a second proclamation, Mr. Toole. This is a child abuse proclamation. Whereas the world's future prosperity depends on our next generation, so it is imperative to nurture the healthy development of our children who are living, growing, and learning within our diverse communities. And whereas child abuse is a crime against humanity, and many victims have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical issues that can result in severe, costly, and lifelong problems such as social, criminal, and academic difficulties. And whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas protective factors reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children, which improves their quality of life. And whereas effective child abuse prevention efforts succeed because of the partnerships created between families, educational institutions, community and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and child welfare professionals. And whereas prevention is the best defense, it is vital that we stay dedicated to increasing awareness about child abuse and continue and contribute to initiatives that promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in safe, stable, and fostering environments within our communities. Now therefore I, Dick Raniers, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Fort Walton Beach, do hereby proclaim April 24th as Child Abuse Prevention Month and urge all citizens to engage in activities that strengthen families and communities to provide an optimal environment for the development of healthy and happy children. In witness herefore, I have set my hand. And Mr. Toole, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Dick Harrison. I want to thank the council and everybody here. The Emerald Coast Exchange Club's been around 20 years, and we have 4 areas of work. Our national area that we do is our National Projects Prevention of Child Abuse. Again, I want to thank the council for recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. I've also given staff and council the blue wristband, you'll see it up there, to wear during April to recognize that April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. I do have some extras, some of y'all want some in the audience. Finally, I want to bring the council some exciting news. And I've told Mayor Raniers, we are working on, again, our national project is child abuse prevention. Since March of 2004, the Exchange Clubs all over the state of Florida has opened 5 different child abuse prevention centers in the state. The oldest is in Jacksonville, Florida, which is the closest to us, and has been operating for more than 32 years. And in 2023, they worked over 200 cases in the Exchange Parent Aid home visitation model, which has a success rate of 99.7% in prevention of child abuse. To let you know that, what that is that we send a counselor in that home to 6 to 12 months, 1 hour a week, and that costs the club or the center $1,000. If that family has to get prosecuted, it's over $100,000 to the state. Saves the state a ton of money. So what good news is the Emerald Coast, the Exchange Club of the Emerald Coast and the Exchange Club of Niceville has begun the paperwork for the Exchange Club Family Center of the Emerald Coast for prevention of child abuse. It is actually going to sit right here in Okaloosa County. As of March 28th, we have currently incorporated. We have our EIN number, and the 501c3 paperwork is going in next week and should take effect in 2 months. Our goal is to be functioning in fall of 2024, and we will be modeling the same parent aid course that is successful in Jacksonville and Duval County. So we will start all of Circuit 1, which is Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, and Walton counties, and we will start servicing Circuit 1. And then we'll eventually move over into the next circuit over and go all the way to the time zone. But thank you. We'll be getting in touch. We're going to be getting this started, and we want all the city of Fort Walton Beach to be a part of this.
Well, thank you, Ron. Thank you very much for all you're doing. It's good work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Peters, I think we have some employee recognition.
We do, thank you, Mayor. As you all know, we do once a month, if we have employees that receive their 5-year, 10-year, 15 in increments of 5 anniversaries, we like to recognize them in the council meeting, or at least their names. Sometimes we have them in attendance, and sometimes we announce their names, and we'll give the pins and certificates to the directors. But we have for 5 years, we've got Stanley Honor with service work with CDL with Public Works, 5 years. We've got Abner Sermons, Police Corporal, 5 years, Police Department. $15 years is Dustin Rosenberg, Police Sergeant. And last but not least is Pat Sherman with Recreation Department, the Recreation Program Supervisor, 25 years. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peters, appreciate that. All right, now we're up to the consent agenda. Council, we need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Jeter and seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to approve the consent agenda as presented. Further comments? Comments? Council, please vote. That's passed unanimously. Thank you, Council. Now we're at mayor and council comments. Mr. Allegretto would have been first, but he's not here, so we'll go to Ms. DeBerry. Your turn.
I'll hold my comments for right now.
All right, Mr. Jeter.
I would like to compliment everybody who had a part in getting the fence banner wrap on corner 98 and Perry. I know Lisa's not here, and I know TDC helped pay for some of that, but last week we had a bunch of teams in town from Kentucky, so I had a bunch of cousins text me and say, wow, y'all doing some cool stuff in Fort Walton Beach. There's a lot of cool pictures on that wrap, and it really shows people what some of the cool projects are that we're doing, so it looks really good.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Meade.
I'll save most of them to last, but one thing on our new development in the city, I was over at the courthouse today, and it's real exciting to see all the positive growth, so thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, just going to get, and Mr. Peters might want to pass this on to Chris, but just an update on Chris, when do you plan to bring back a CTP update?
I'm planning for the May meeting. I'm going to work on the first day today on that.
Awesome. And if I can get out in front of it anymore, just as we prepare for that, bring this back and some things we can do to try to make this cohesive for folks that want to change the usage of their land to mixed use, or I know we have to go through a land use process and those kind of things, but to make it where folks can modify and do things to their land and minus the setbacks and all the regulations that our current CTP has, to try to find some good dirt over there next door to our DOD and other agencies that are doing great things over there. Looking forward to hearing that in May. And Mr. Mayor, I don't think I need to do this in a motion type form, because I got a lot of confidence in our city attorney and city manager, but if we can reach out and bring back in late May just a status update with the county, Cinco Bayou, and Shalimar, to see the best route to develop an Eglin Corridor master plan to enhance and improve the blightiness as we go down the Eglin Corridor, and just see what best model could be done. Is it interlocal agreement? I don't know, but something, when people come through here, maybe it's Mr. Jeter's cousins or people like that were in here for the weekend, but when you get off the airport or you're just driving in town from Crestview, you don't really know what you're doing from Shalimar all the way into the city of Fort Walton Beach. It's just the Eglin Corridor, so just see what we can do. And then late May, just a status update on what kind of appetite the county or Cinco Bayou and Shalimar have on seeing what we can do. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith.
Nothing from me yet, no.
Okay. Mr. Walker.
Nicole or Jeff, and I may have missed it in the email, I apologize, I've been on there. Are we there on the financial software update, our ability to access that?
We are waiting, so we gave them the budget to actual, so we have to actually submit it within the software, and they take about a 5-day turnaround to have it uploaded. We have the link done, we have everything. I just got to make sure what they uploaded matches correctly, because they're getting some of our subline items I kind of messed up. But so next week, hopefully, we submitted it on Monday, all of our information for them to upload. So
Great, thank you. It kind of led me to the next part of it. This a little over a year ago now, 4 of us came into office, and we came in with some high hopes and ambitions, and I stated mine from the beginning was to cut the cost of government on the taxpayers. So I know throughout the year, and tonight there was more of it, and congratulations to everyone who was awarded a certificate of service, but I'd like to take just a minute to thank all of the taxpayers who support us day in and day out. They send their money here and we spend it up here to the best of our abilities, and I think I'm hoping that software allows us an opportunity to really dig in and see where we might be able to save additional money for them. We had, the fire assessment fee, that was a big one, but I think with really drilling down into some of the financials, we'll be able to maybe pinpoint some other areas where we might be able to save the taxpayers some money. So thank you taxpayers. That's all for now, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Sir, and I'm going to wait till the end if I still have any voice left. So we'll go to number 9, public comments. This is a time for anyone to come forward and speak on items that are not on the agenda. And I'll ask you to limit your time to 5 minutes or less. Yes, sir.
And Bishop, 309 Briarwood Circle. Just wanted to bring some to y'all's attention and to Jeff's attention. Citizen, I saw a post of this online and said that he had called the city. Not sure if you already talked to the city, but it still hasn't been fixed. But over at Ferry Park, I've got a picture which I can send to y'all's email, but there's a screw coming loose from a piece of playground equipment, and they just want to get it fixed so that no kid gets on it and it comes completely apart and then something happens. So just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention.
Yep, we'll take care of it.
So, and I'll send y'all a picture of it. So.
All right, thank you, sir.
Got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Sharon Trinary, 42 Bay Drive. I understand that y'all, sorry, that the city council voted to have a magistrate for the code enforcement in lieu of the code enforcement board because y'all couldn't get a quorum. Is that a correct understanding?
Mr. Peters, can you address that?
Yeah, Kim's got it pulled up. It was October of 2021.
That was quite a while ago.
Yeah, it said council reiterated that code enforcement board will still be seated and not be dissolved. The use of the magistrate would be an option for the city to use for certain cases.
Thank you, sir.
So, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that now a magistrate will sit instead of the code enforcement board because there's been a problem getting a quorum. Is that correct?
Chris could probably address
All
this.
right. Mr. Bissett.
As far as I know, the special magistrate is supplemental to the code enforcement board, and staff has the option of using either one, but I'll let Mr. Frasetti add to that.
That's correct. Over the last fall, we did have a couple of meetings in a row that we did have a challenge getting a quorum. We did get the new magistrate. The contract was approved at the end of last year, so the beginning of this year, we have heard, the new magistrate has heard 3 cases, 3 meetings, 3 case times since they've been put in place.
Okay, well, my point is that I've been reading the code rather diligently lately, and my understanding of the section that governs the code enforcement board is that there's to be a panel of 7 representing different occupations to bring to the code enforcement board. And if there's not enough people to be on it according to the code, and the people miss more than 2 meetings, they are automatically removed from the board and a replacement is put in. So my question to y'all would be, if you're all having trouble seating code enforcement board members, if I go out and recruit people for the board, because, let me finish one thought before I start another. If I go out and recruit people to come in to be on the board, would y'all be willing to go back to seating the code enforcement board instead of a magistrate? And my thinking is that the citizens want to be involved. In my experience, citizens want to be involved. And this is one avenue that they can actually have a say in what's going on in the city. So if they would be willing to participate, I personally would rather have a panel of 7 people to make a decision about violations in the city rather than one attorney. No offense, John. So would y'all be willing to, if I'm improper in asking the,
That's not a decision we make on the spot. That would be something if there was 7 people seated on the board and that was brought, that maybe we didn't need a magistrate, maybe something for council to consider. But I'll remind you, we went to the magistrate system because we couldn't get volunteers that were willing to serve.
But if I can get enough people to, because I understand there's some vacancies, and I will take it upon myself to go and recruit people who will commit to doing 1 day a month. I mean, that's not much to ask the citizens to participate in our government. And I would like to ask the city council if they would consider that.
If there were 7 people on the board, it could be something that could be brought up. I can't predict how the council will react to that.
I understand.
Mr. Mayor?
So, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll just share with you, at least my perspective of, I think our city attorney used the word supplement. To answer your question, yes, if you can recruit and get people on there, my intention of really supporting the magistrate in this process is so we can run parallel. There's a lot of residents and businesses that are concerned about our lack of code enforcement and some of the growth and overgrown and blightedness that's happening in our businesses and residents and things like that. Yes, if we can recruit and sustain and maintain a code enforcement board while utilizing the magistrate,
I'm not clear on how.
Well, I'll let Chris explain the technical side, but just to respond to you, if you could recruit
Sure.
and get code enforcement board talent, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we advertise? Have we been advertising for code enforcement applicants?
Yes, ma'am, we have in the past.
Can we continue?
We have a board now that's not completely full. I think we have 2 vacancies, which are just alternates. So we do still have a board that if the code board is needed to meet, we could do that.
So how do we decide, this is a double question, how do we decide if the code is needed versus the magistrate?
Yeah, that's where, you know, me and my team, we basically decided, see what cases we have coming up and whether it's something based on scheduling that we can do with the magistrate or the code board. In the fall, when we did have a couple of meetings that we had to cancel with the code board, when we got the new magistrate in place, we did go ahead. Since January now, we've held 3 magistrate hearings. We haven't scheduled a code board meeting in the last 3 months here. They are still available for us, you know, based on, you know, just as needed, but, you know, so far we've just been looking at what cases we have coming up here and deciding which way to go with it.
Does the person appearing before the magistrate, do they have a choice if there's a panel that is in place? Would they have a choice of a magistrate versus the board?
We have been making decisions on staff side because they do meet on different times. So for notices, we have to get notices out, you know, a certain amount of time before the meetings for all these cases. So we're going with one way or the other on where they're picking the code board or the magistrate.
Well, because the way I read the code is that you have sole discretion as to whether or not the board meets versus a magistrate.
Yes, they can. Yeah, we can select.
So that's what I'm asking you is if I got, you know, members, so would you allow us to go back to having a board instead of a magistrate?
Well, like Ms. Barnes said, I think, you know, we do have a board currently that is full.
I know, but
so
what makes your decision to use a magistrate as opposed to the board?
usually it's scheduling, looking at, we have different times of the month that we're scheduling these 2 meetings and we're looking at seeing how we can, you know, get it going.
Mr. Neri, that's really a staff decision. So, thank you, Mr. Dieter.
Which one is more productive for you to get the most amount of?
The magistrate is much more efficient for us.
So you like the magistrate?
Yes.
That's the most effective route to get the most amount of properties in compliance, which is what we're trying to accomplish.
Yes.
Okay.
But that eliminates the citizenship who wants to participate in the city government.
I just think the code enforcement board is to get properties in code compliance, so whatever way is the most productive to do that, I think is the route.
Well,
we're choosing.
and again, I think if you had members that understood that if you don't attend, if you miss 2 meetings, you're off the board. And I think that's imperative to apply and not overlook. So, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to speak? Come forward. Seeing none, we'll go to resolutions. Resolution 10.1, 2024-6, resolution to terminate the Lewis Turner Area Traffic Improvements Project and FDOT funding. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, terminating grant funding through the Florida Department of Transportation for Lewis Turner Area Traffic Improvements, authorizing the mayor, city manager, and city attorney to execute all grant-related documents and providing an effective date.
Daniel Payne, Public Works Utility Services Director, Mayor and Council tonight. In front of you, you had an item that's up. I think it's important to start off that this grant agreement has been officially expired since December 31st, 2023. We were notified later. I think Ms. Barnes was notified that even though that it is expired, we needed a resolution. So that's why there's this after the fact type deal. This item is related to we had a corridor study done to see if we can improve some traffic information or some traffic impacts in the northern part of the city, and as well as, since there was growth, it seems to be the growth area, what we could do on there. So the city had a corridor study went through. It showed a couple different routes. One of them was Denton Boulevard, and from that report, traffic impacts wise, without getting too much into detail, I think summary wise, it improved a little bit. Some places, mainly a county benefit, Central County, not necessarily a city, other than maybe a portion of the Kenwood area. But we had received an appropriation request by the governor for basically construction of these Lewis Turner project improvements, basically related to a corridor. Those costs in the grant agreement were 50% of construction costs or a max of $1.5 million. So regardless, the city would obviously have to pay for it. It was construction dollars only. It was not design. I think if it was design, we probably would have gone and proceed, but we would have to have got there on that end. We had some discussions with FPNL. I think anybody who's been out there sees or play golf, sees a big wide swath that's cleared. It looks like a perfect place for a corridor. It is actually a transmission easement for FPNL, previously known as Gulf Power. And they are, they're real property from the discussions we had. Ideally would have went through an area that was there, but they're pretty protective, and justifiably so, of their transmission easements. And which means basically any corridor would have to side straddle either side of that end. When we coupled, and that was pretty much that was a non-negotiable deal. When we coupled that with the footprint basically not being where we wanted it to ideally go, as well as utility relocations, significant grade differentials with bridges and stuff like that, we know that our price tag, our 50% matching 1.5, we'd obviously need to come out of pocket substantially on that end, and that's basically where we, kind of had gone on that end. So, we did approach the DOT to see if we could use the grant funding or design or a little bit more in-depth detail, but the way everything was wrote, it was construction only, and that was, obviously a non-negotiable deal like that because of how competitive things were. And that's standard on most of those appropriation requests. It's not like you can get the money and then kind of change the scope on that side, or the use. If you guys do remember, in October, city manager relayed some of the stuff to council, and I think we thought basically that was it. But like I said, after the fact, Ms. Barnes, was known that we needed another resolution, even though these items were expired. So, recommendation is to approve the resolution in front of you, and it's for the authorization for the city manager to terminate the grant agreement with the Florida DOT for state-funded grant agreement with the appropriate project number. I'm not going to list on there, but and as well, it is expired officially. But with any questions, I'm here, and
you know.
Questions from council for Mr. Payne? Go ahead.
Yeah, with those neighborhood studies that we've been doing, specifically Kenwood and Lewis Turner.
Sure.
With a lot of that information, correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, that the amount that was cut through the Kenwood neighborhood, roughly 60% of cars that are going from Lewis Turner to Racetrack Road, a lot of them cut through things like that. I'm going to support this, but I guess what I'm getting to is, do we have staff working on a concept of any traffic management to try to alleviate some of that traffic and volume going through the residential neighborhood of Kenwood? And maybe a plan somewhere else besides Denton when we give this money back, or the resolution to get the money back? What is the plan to address that?
So from, if those of you remember, like through the Kenwood study, it was right. It was about 6 out of every 10. We're starting or entering the neighborhood and leaving the neighborhood within 15 minutes, right? Like, so they were basically they were passing through, whether it be whatever. The impact of this was probably about a quarter of that, as far as taking roads off or taking trips. The trips don't go away, right? They go somewhere else, but it was taking that. The bigger benefit was that central Ocean City area, the unincorporated county portion. The results of the study were basically anything you do is kind of, I would say, window dressing within the Kenwood neighborhood, but until there is another corridor or route, it's still quicker, even if you had a 10 speed bump, 10 more speed bumps and put stop signs at every single intersection. It still was, trip time wise, 30 seconds, I do believe, is what it was, or 23, don't quote me exactly, was the amount of time was quicker to go through than around through the mini area, right? So you're fighting that. If it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 seconds, you probably can make that up. But 30 is probably pretty steep, right? It's longer. So that's where some of those challenges, people coming through, that's where you get. The long-term, basically, recommendation was, until you probably have another quarter option, then it's going to be hard to do what you can to eliminate that.
And I guess that was the question. So right now, are we evaluating any other corridor options to mitigate some of that Kenwood data that we
So
studied?
we looked at McFarland, which is another that was part of the corridor study. The McFarland option posed some right-of-way. It has its own set of challenges on that end, but those two made the most sense on that end for what we looked at, and we're actually evaluated in the corridor study.
Thank you.
Mr. Payne, Mr. Walker.
So I see Kimberly Horn is providing, here we are at the end, we're terminating. I'm just thinking about the amount of time that you and your staff spent in, because I still don't see the history here. I mean, I know it's hard to put everything in an agenda package. We'd be looking at 6,000 pages, but not, so the Denton Boulevard came about from a study as an alternative as presented by Kimberly Horn, is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So there was a neighborhood, we did a neighborhood traffic study. And out of that neighborhood traffic study, there were some recommendations, right? And one of them, long-term, was to look at a different corridor.
And then so seeing this tonight, I know that we've got another funding request coming up here later in the agenda for another bit of some funding. Looking for a little bit of information related to, was there a feasibility study that was put together for a Denton Boulevard pass-through?
Since it would be probably a local road, there was no when I think of feasibility study, I mean, you could think about it two ways, right? The DOT definition of a feasibility study, or just common, terminology, me and you talking about feasibility study. The corridor routes were studied, but I think once you get down to, an intricate look at details, that's kind of longer design.
enforcement. So we never got there, if that's the answer to your question. But as far as looking at the data and everything else, yes.
It's easy for me to sit here an armchair quarterback looking back, or, hindsight's 20/20, but alternative, and Denton obviously shaped up to be the best one, but it's just hard thinking back that how those Florida Power and Light, Gulf Power easements there weren't, said, hey guys, we got a problem here, because what it appears has happened, that wasn't done early enough, and you and Kimberly Horn and previous council and staff time and all was, moving a lot of time and investment in that, only for it to die at the end on something that could have been found in the beginning.
Yeah, noted. Right. I think that's fair to say. I mean, it is lines on a paper. I mean, we as far as getting down into those details, I would say that's probably more true on funding request level than maybe, but a lot of times these funding requests that come in, I mean, there's not shovel ready stuff before they go in, right? Ideally, that'd be great. You know exactly what you're getting into. We felt like had some good information, but yeah, maybe the costing was a little off.
So David asked about it. I believe we had the Kenwood portion of the study, and then you had Beale Parkway portion of the study. That's all aimed at relieving traffic from Beacon to the new development up there, and future development that's coming up there, right? Trying to ease traffic.
Yeah, I would say it was a few things. It was basically kind of more started grassroots with the Kenwood thing in the neighborhood deal, which was kind of cool, because that's kind of one of the stuff. And then there was the other development going on. In a period of time, I think we had a new school, right? And the challenges we had with the new school, we had the 50 acres up north on the other side, and then we had not to mention the numerous county development stuff on that side too. So we were trying to keep up with development.
Good, yeah, so I was looking at Denton Road Extension one-page exhibit, but it's a multiple pages. Jeff, do you have, or staff, does anyone have any idea? I mean, because I'm trying to put all the pieces together. We invested in a study with Kimberly Horn, and it resulted in a path being chosen that we can't use now. And I'm just curious how much money we spent to get to
Well,
the
that wasn't the only thing they were tasked to do. There was other parts of that study.
Yeah, we had received an appropriations request to do that study previously.
You had received a what? An appropriations request?
Yes.
So was that funded by taxpayers? Was it coming from,
It was through legislative, but basically through DOT deal. So we received grant funding per se to do that.
They gave us grant funding to do this?
To look at the traffic roads prior to.
Okay. And what's next? I mean, you mentioned McFarland. Was that alternative, was that second option, or?
Yeah, I think, there wasn't a 1, 2, 3, but it was basically, how those lines went through the golf course, right? Like you can probably draw an infinite amount of different ones on there. So McFarland was another entirely different terminus road, right? But those of you who've been driven down McFarland would know that it'd be very challenging.
Right, yeah.
Before you even got there.
I mean, it didn't look ideal, but again, we ran into power lines that have killed it, so I'm just, and then so tonight's request is to terminate it, and then I was reading that resolution to terminate down at the end. Let's see, it was to, I want to see if I know what's happening to the money, follow the money. A budget amendment to release the project carryover totaling $3 million, which is 1.5 of awarded grant funding and 1.5 of city matched funds. So we came up with $1.5 million of taxpayers' money to be prepared to match it, right? Is that correct?
It would have been matched if the project had gone forward. It would have been matched with at the time would have been unrestricted fund balance, but it was move to restricted fund balance to match that project.
So this is going to be coming back into the budget as unrestricted.
Yeah, the carryover of the encumbrance will be released.
So that money will come back into unrestricted funds, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I've got for now. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Anyone from the audience have a comment, question? Council, may we get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I approve, or make a motion to approve resolution 2024-6.
Second.
Is that David? Is that yours?
Yes, sir.
Motion was made by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Schmidt to approve resolution 24-6, resolution to terminate Lewis Turner Area Traffic Improvements Project and FDOT funding. Further comment?
Just clarification, we're not terminating anything other than the grant that has expired.
Correct.
That's correct.
So I just want to let everybody know that we're not terminating anything other than the grant that has already expired that we cannot collect on.
Yes, sir. Mr. Schmidt?
And like I said, I'm supporting this. You know, not talking, we've had some conversations. I don't like the grant expiring. I don't like giving the state money back that we said we needed, that we don't need to use anymore. But that being said, I still want to continue to churn at figuring out, zooming out. One of the biggest issues that our military community has is traffic. And we know the growth that we're extremely excited about and very fortunate to have coming all over the region, and then zooming back into that portion of the city, still figuring out what we're doing as far as working on mitigating that traffic management situation between all the cars that are going through there. So that's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Walker?
Yeah, well, Travis, just to make sure, I mean, I agree with what you said there, but it's also, it's terminating the grant, but it's also returning $1.5 million to the unrestricted fund balance, which was previously dedicated, so it's now back in the emergency fund almost. I mean, it's there for our use to use it as we will, correct? Is that correct, Nicole?
It's not going into an emergency fund.
No, but in an emergency, we would have that in the unrestricted funds. We could go grab it and do something in an emergency with it if we wanted to, or return it to taxpayers, because that, I mean, I've brought that up, you know, several times. That's money that we didn't know was coming back. It's now back in there. So I hope that as staff meets to go over their budget, I know you guys are in that cycle right now. I've looked at it again, I've brought it again. I know you guys are in that process, but there's $1.5 million coming back into the unrestricted funds. So I hope that we can somehow think of the taxpayers and how we might provide them some relief from that.
Well, it was originally in unrestricted fund balance. Anyway, it was in the city's reserves account for.
Sure, and I think we were at 7 million-ish and 8 million. Was that the number in unrestricted funds?
It was. You'll hear a
So-
wonderful presentation later on.
So now it's up. So now we've just got a bonus back, if you will.
Yeah, it went from here to match it, and then just went back into place when we.
Right, but where we had the budget last year, it was at 7. Just tonight, if this happens and she releases the money back to unrestricted funds, if it were at 7, easy number, we'd be at $8.5 million in that reserve unrestricted. So we just, you know, we've got that money there. I'm going to keep that in mind as we go forward, looking at taxpayer money.
We've got City Hall and around the mountain, we're helping.
A lot of things coming up.
Yeah, it worked out that way.
Any other council comments? Anyone from the public wish to comment? Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously. Thank you, council. That'll bring us to item 11, ordinances on first reading. Item 11.1, 2141, ordinance to rezone 327 Edmund Parkway North from MX1 to CG. Ms. Cobb.
Ordinance 2141, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for the property located at 327 Edgewood Parkway North to be rezoned from MX1 mixed-use medium to CG commercial, providing for the amendment of the effective portion of the official zoning map, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Mr. Pizzetti.
Thank you. Chris Rossetti, Growth Management Director. So this item and the following item, 11.2, are related to each other. I'll kind of speak to this one and then somewhat to the next one, which is a request to amend the PUD plan unit development for it. So this is the first part of it, which is to request to rezone it, property 327 England Parkway North, excuse me, from MX1 to CG. This is the underlying zoning. So this property, as some may know or recall, this is a property that was annexed into the city a number of years ago and went through a request originally for a Walmart neighborhood market proposal there. There was many steps throughout that process, but ultimately it was annexed into the city, it was assigned to zoning, and then also went through a voluntary PUD plan unit development process, which puts a zoning overlay above the zoning of the property. That project never happened, and then so a couple of years ago, now or about 4 years ago now actually, the southern half of the property, there was a request to amend the PUD and look at modifying the boundaries for the zoning at that time to build the Sefco gas station, which has since been built and is there today. The north part of the property, at that time when the PUD was amended for the south part of the property for Sefco, that PUD amendment just basically said that the north half would be addressed in the future when any future development plans come together. So that's where we are now, and we did receive a request earlier this year, a couple months ago here now, to rezone this property from MX1 to CG, as well as to amend the PUD. The proposed use from the applicant is for a landscape material company. This property currently has been, on the north half of this property, has been vacant. So this request, typically when we would look at it as going from an MX1 to a commercial, we're looking at the intensity of uses and compatibility with surrounding land uses. If we were looking at it just on that surface level there, it would be a challenge based on some of the surrounding residential properties along Middle Drive and a couple properties on First Avenue as well. However, because in this case there is that PUD that restricts the uses and intensity and compatibility of uses there, it really helps bring this together. So in our analysis, when we look at the code, there's several criteria here looking at the consistency, as I mentioned there. The future land use is mixed use, and a commercial zoning is compatible and consistent with the future land use category of mixed use. Then we also look at whether that use is compatible with the surrounding zoning, as I mentioned. And staff does find, because of the proposed modified PUD, which is the next item, addressing the concerns of compatibility with the surrounding residential areas, we find that it is consistent, compatible. There are also commercial uses to the north and south of this property along Eglin Parkway to help the compatibility. Next is we look at whether it's substantially more intense or less intense than the development on adjacent parcels. Somewhat similar to the previous item, and we do find that it is compatible and consistent, and that any potentially adverse impacts to the residential areas adjacent are addressed in the PUD to provide adequate buffers and separation for compatibility. And last, we look at whether requested use is based on soil types, topography, and protection of natural resources, and protection of designated historic areas. In this case, this property is not within any of those areas, not within wetland or MRAP flood zone or any archaeological sensitive areas, so there should be a fairly straightforward process and is not impacted or affected based on any special conditions on the site there. This item did go to the LPA at their last meeting, and the LPA did recommend approval of this request. We have received a few public comments on it as well. There were a few concerns regarding the use and if zoning, if it could allow a hotel or something more intense there right across the street from residential. And as I previously mentioned, it was addressed as well at that time during those comments at LPA, is that because of the PUD, it wouldn't allow a hotel. The existing MX1 zoning, underlying zoning of MX1 would actually already allow a hotel in theory. However, because of the PUD, that use would not be allowed specifically. So with that, staff does respectfully recommend the City Council's approval of this request to change the underlying zoning for 327 Eglin Parkway North and approving ordinance 2141 to rezone the property from MX1, mixed use medium, to CG commercial. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any questions from council? Mr. Walker.
I was just reading here, it says the proposed modified PUD.
Yes.
And it led me to you said there's been some comments. Do we have those as part of the package?
No, sir. They were just verbal comments that we received. There was nothing.
So no written?
There was no written comments that we received.
My first thought was, I remember a little bit of the history there because it was going to be the Walmart Center there. And is it true they split it up and Sefco has taken half of it and this would be practically the other half?
Approximately, yes.
Right, and I
Yes.
saw that little corner up there right beside Goofy Golf is still that car center. church
Correct,
center,
that's
whatever.
separately not owned under this ownership.
So if this is approved tonight and it becomes commercial and don't want to wish it any bad luck, but if the venture fails, I mean, back to the drawing board and there's a new person shows up and they want to construct a
It's so
commercial use.
It really be tied to that next item on the agenda, which is the amendment to that existing PUD. Really, one in staff's opinion, my opinion, it can't go without the other. Like I said, if the PUD didn't exist and we were just looking at a straight full rezoning to commercial here, staff probably wouldn't support it. In this case, because of the PUD and restrictions there, if they're both approved and that PUD, if that this proposed development with that PUD doesn't go through, then it'd be in the same situation that we were at with Walmart for the last several years. That it really sits there, and then the applicant and the owner would be back to the drawing board trying to figure out what's the next opportunity for the site, and be back in front of the council, probably going through this process to amend the PUD in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Smith?
Just out of curiosity, what triggers this as a major development order?
It's actually because it's in a planned unit development. So a planned triggers for major development order are either a PUD, a tall structure, or subject to a development agreement with the city.
Well, I didn't see any drawings of what they may be building there or anything
It is
like
in the
that.
next item in 11.2.
Yeah, oh, it's in 11.2.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 11.2 has the PUD and major development order site plans.
Okay.
Other questions from council? Anyone from the public wish to comment? Council, maybe get a motion.
I'll make a motion to.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You want a presentation?
Yes, sir.
I represent the owner.
Please come forward. Yes, I'm so sorry. I didn't.
No, that's
see you.
okay. I'm John Henderson, Henderson Engineering. I'm representing the owner, Mr. Cox. Some of y'all may remember just last year, maybe 18 months ago, we came before you to put some townhomes on Middle Drive. The residents didn't like that. That was allowable use. They didn't want any residential there. So we kind of backed up, went forward with something more like the Walmart that was approved before, okay? This is a landscape supply company. Unfortunately, a landscape supply company is not allowed in mixed-use zoning. MX1, it's not allowed in MX2. Walmart grocery store is, surprisingly. Oddly enough, a big box store, big box retail store, is not allowed in MX1. It's only allowed in CG, which kind of fits the Walmart description. But that's kind of in the past. But, so back to the Walmart. This was the old Walmart, Middle Drive. There was a there was a memorandum of agreement between the Walmart and the neighborhood. There was some attorney involvement there. And the agreement was to leave 55 feet between the edge of Middle Drive and the development. That was called a residential buffer zone. Okay, so we're maintaining that 50 feet, or 55 feet. It results in a 22.5-foot buffer on our property, plus the buffer that's in the Middle Drive. That's another, this is our project. So, like I said, that buffer remains. We're actually going to supplement it with some oak trees. We've got, instead of a wall right here and a driveway and a building, we've got the stormwater right here. We put in a long linear retention area to back the development up farther from Middle Drive, from the residential area. Okay, these are going to be outdoor storage areas. This is for construction materials. They're just a little bit north on Eglin Parkway. They want to expand their business. They do aggregates, topsoil, pine straw. They want to expand. They want to do decorative stone, plants. So this will be all their stockpile areas for topsoil, aggregates. They want to put plants over here, and up here they want to put decorative stone. Of course, here we'll have a landscape buffer. The old building that's right here, we're getting rid of that. Improving the blight along the area here. So, in the Walmart, which was approved, the building was 50 feet off the property line. This is going to be a shed for a pine straw. It's 175 feet off the property line. So we pushed all the commercial activity up toward Edward Parkway. Okay? This infrastructure, it could be taken out, rebuilt, but the intent is for this infrastructure, the land slopes this way. Once this infrastructure is in, it's unlikely that it's going to be redeveloped and removed in that stormwater retention area, put elsewhere. Certainly it wouldn't be put up on the frontage because that's Edward frontage. There's not a lot of uses that are allowed in the CG that weren't allowed in the MX1. There was a hotel that was brought up last time. That's allowed in MX1. So it could theoretically be built now. It would have to undergo the PUD approval, and if the PUD met the criteria or made it compatible, then it would likely be approved. So I don't think I have anything more unless y'all have some questions.
Questions from council for Mr. Anderson? Mr. Smith?
You say there's going to be decorative stone put on the front, but I've seen what construction materials looks like now on the front, and I guess my question is say they go in and sell decorative stone and it's not profitable for them, decide they want to go and put more construction materials up at the front. Is there some sort of privacy fencing or something like that they're going to put up at the front of the property? The reason I say that is you got Decks and Docks, which is right down the road in the county, and it's kind of more of an intensive commercial use. I would say that it's probably not something that's very attractive driving down the Egglet corridor, but with that privacy fencing buffer up there, when you drive by, you kind of almost don't really realize it's there. And so I would have a concern of changes being made to where all of a sudden construction materials start getting put out there, but there's no privacy fencing to kind of shield that stuff from the public view.
Sure. Well, the intent was they've got stockpiles all over the property. It is pretty intense. They have a lot more going on there than they have property for. That's why they want to expand. But the intent was to put the stockpile areas back here. Now this up here was hopefully to have a little bit of visibility. They'll have some pallets of the decorative stones for people to actually see when they go by. We could put a fence up that would we are going to put a landscape buffer along the frontage. We could do a fence, but that kind of takes away from the visual, being able to display your stone. And of course, this is supposed to be plants. It could change, but you wouldn't want your frontage to see the stockpile materials. You want your frontage to see stuff that's going to draw people in. This stockpile materials, your landscape contractor's going to come through here. They're going to load some mulch or whatever in his trailer. He's going to go on through the Sepco and get him a cup of coffee. But the people coming off of here, they're going to see the plants, the stone. That's going to be the residents. It's not going to be the contractors. But if the council, wishes, we'll put a fence up.
Other comments from Mr. Cheater?
Yeah, mixing a lot of things together here. Thank you for all the thought and consideration you did put in moving stuff and taking care of the neighborhood and that kind of stuff. And to piggyback on Councilman Smith's comments, I guess it all depends on who you ask. As a builder or someone in construction, riding down that road, you may get excited about seeing certain types of material, just like you may get excited about seeing a car. So I don't want to get into the weeds of what's, what appeals to the eye of someone driving down the Eglin corridor as to what's retail and what's not retail. If you're a builder, that's retail and it gets you excited. There's other kinds of retail that can also, be considered blight that we want to take into consideration. So it would be cool to see some kind of fence wrap, some kind of banner, just like we talked about looking nice down here in the corner of 98 and Hollywood. But we also don't want to hide the entire visibility of it being commercial and being retail, because that kind of stuff excites someone in the construction business. So I like it, and thank you for putting all that thought and consideration into the neighborhood and the retail side of it, so thank you.
Like I said, if we need a fence, then we'll be happy to put a fence up. If we could maybe, we have a landscape buffer, and if it pleases the council, maybe we can enhance that landscape buffer where there's, some visual screen, but you could still see through to the product.
And that would be something that we could get into. Ms. Cobb, I know we've talked about this a lot going forward. I don't think it needs to be brought up now, but we've talked about conditional use permits for different type. I know Chief Bailey was big on it down in, I forget what city he said, but every year when you go to renew a BTR, and you go back to and you actually revisit some of the things that were on their conditional use permit instead of just signing off on a BTR every year, making sure. So if a fence is put on something like that 5 years from now, you still have some kind of power to make sure that fence is still there, that fence is still up, if that's the route we go. You know what I mean? More type of conditional use permits, conditional use BTRs.
Yes. And you can, it sounds like the applicant is willing to have that condition placed on this now.
Yeah.
Now, we're coming back in 2 weeks. If we want to postpone the development order, we can maybe put some language in that. I mean, I don't know what.
And this is more so on, I think we're talking more towards 11.2. Recently approved 11.1, correct, Mr. Mayor? 11.1 is just the zoning, Chris, and 11.2 is the...
Is the pediment, that's
Is the
right.
PUD, so
And
that
it would
would
be
be
more,
11.2.
it would be more legally appropriate to do it on 11.2, not the
11.2.
rezoning.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Got it. All right, other questions from council on 11.1? Anyone else from the audience wishes to comment on 11.1? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the motel or something that could be built if they went out of business.
And sir, I need you to identify yourself, name and address, please.
And if you change, I thought with the zoning as it is.
Sir, can you give us your name and address and then start? You.
I can't hear.
Can you give us your name and address and then you can start?
Yes. My name's Raymond McLeod.
Thank you.
I live on Middle Drive, right in front of 327 Eglin Park.
Thank you, sir.
Right. And if this business folds up, could they build a motel right there or a high-rise apartment building? Because it's in my front yard right here. I was just wondering, couldn't they keep MX1 and put the business in?
Mr. Persetti?
The way it is?
They could not put this use on there in MX1, and they wouldn't be able to build a hotel or something like that without amending the PUD, which would be in front of council at that time in the future. And ultimately, if they were looking to do that, it would be an item that would be back in front of council for council's decision.
Well, you can build a hotel in MX1, right?
Because you can't do residential.
Correct, yes.
We wouldn't be able to do a high-rise apartment if it changes to CG because you can't do residential in CG. But we can do a motel in MX1 and we can do a motel in CG. But we can't do an apartment in CG and we can do an apartment in MX1. Isn't that correct?
Yes. Ultimately, anything else, any development on the site would be in front of council for your decision.
And also, like you said, I'm concerned about the noise and stuff from the business. But I just didn't want a motel being built if something happened to them.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Any other comments from? Yes, Mr. Anderson, you have something?
I was just gonna make a comment. It was mentioned noise. Okay, so it's 22 feet, there was a wall, then there's an alleyway in the back of the building. Trucks would come around here, pull up, and then back in here for the loading ramp, right? So here, we're 22 feet off, plus another 30 feet, plus another 17 and a half feet. So we're about 30, 22, 55, 65 feet. To the back of here, we're 175 feet to the building. To this, I don't have the dimension, but I mean, we're way, way off of the property line, so the noise is going to be much, much, much less than the Walmart would produce.
Thank you, sir. Council, may we get a motion?
A motion to adopt ordinance 2141 to rezone 327 Egglin Parkway from MX1 to CG.
Second.
Then moved by Councilman Gator and seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to accept item 11.1, 2141 ordinance to rezone 327 Egglin Parkway North from MX1 to CG. Any further comment? Comment?
Ms. The applicant is a client of mine, and since it's so property specific, I'm assuming it's probably best if I abstain from voting on this.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Council, please vote. It does pass 5-0 with one extension. Thank you, Council. That'll bring us to 11.2, 2142, ordinance to plan unit development PUD for 327 Egglin Parkway North. Ms. Cox.
Ordinance 2142, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for property located at 327 Egglin Parkway North to update planned unit development PUD zoning overlay, providing for approval of the site development plan, major development order, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. This is first reading.
Thank you. Mr. Frazetti.
Thank you. This is the next part of the process, and really most of this probably was discussed during the last discussion as well, so try to repeat everything that we previously discussed. However, this is a request to amend the planned unit development PUD for the property 327 Egglin Parkway North, specifically for a proposed development for a landscape materials company. So this, as part of this process, there's a PUD narrative that basically explains all those conditions, those terms. We're talking compatibility with the neighborhood, talks about that buffer, talks about the lighting, that there's no lighting proposed, but if any future lighting was proposed, it would be shielded and kept away from residential properties. Regarding to that noise that Mr. McLeod talked about, there's also language in there saying that there won't be any after-hour overnight deliveries. The only deliveries will be occurring during daytime, normal business operating hours. So, covers all those criteria, those types of items. Also attached in here were the civil engineer site plans by Mr. Henderson. And so, in this process, it is a major development order because it is in a PUD. And so the difference from an expedited development order is really the last step in the process, which is it comes in front of you all for a final decision. Staff has reviewed, the development review team across the various departments have reviewed the attached civil site plans, and we are recommending approval and find that they do meet the standards within our land development code. So with that, I'll just go through the staff analysis quickly, in that we do review it for conformity with the comprehensive plan, which we do find that it is consistent with. Then we do review the plan unit development standards in Chapter 4 of the Land Development Code, and we do find that it meets the criteria and the intended purposes of a plan unit development, which talk about compatibility, landscape buffers, as well as some of those lighting, dumpster locations, and all those items will be screened and buffered from the residential development around this property. We also looked at the traffic and access control. This much like previous developments within previous PUDs on this site, there's not going to be any direct access onto Middle Drive. It is really kept along the other streets, and there's also a cross connection, cross access to SEPCO, which is something that we do encourage in our code to help to kind of disperse some of that traffic and limit driveways onto especially state roads. So this item did go to the LPA at their last meeting, and they did also recommend City Council approval of this item. Staff does find that it does meet the Land Development Code standards and is compatible with our comprehensive plan. The couple of items I just did want to note as far as the development standards as well, and conditions within this ordinance and development approval is that similar to the previous PUD, we do have some language in here talking about that prior to start of construction, we would require a pre-construction meeting between staff and site contractors to go over and make sure everything's clear regarding maintaining of that buffer, that natural vegetative buffer along Middle Drive, and everything is good to go, so we don't have any mistakes or issues removing vegetation or anything else right off the get-go. We also have language in here just regarding that, in accordance with the LDC, only non-potable or reclaimed water shall be used in the irrigation system. We also have language regarding just maintaining that landscape vegetative buffer that I previously mentioned. We also have language that regarding the landscape buffer again, that prior to start of construction, all the existing trees to be saved shall be marked or flagged to ensure that they are saved in accordance with any approved development plans if it is approved. And then we have a note that they are proposing for tree removal of 215 inches of protected trees. They're proposing to replace 146 inches in our code. That is allowed. However, that you just have to mitigate any protected trees inch for inch. So in this case, it would be 69 inches of trees removed, and they have proposed to mitigate that through the city's tree mitigation fund, which is a specific fund that we have established that with the funding that we receive in that, we're able to plant trees elsewhere in the city in parks and other future projects that we do throughout the city. So with that, staff does respectfully recommend the City Council approval of this request to update the planning and development for 327 Eglin Parkway North and approving ordinance 2142 to adopt the proposed PUD and the site development plans with the major development order. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council for Mr. Brissette? Mr. Walker.
Back to the fence question, I guess. I was looking on here, there's a couple of existing gates. I mean, it's gonna be a fenced property, correct? Chain link?
The entrances are gonna be gated, so there's no traffic, there's no activity after hours.
So there's not gonna be a fence between you and SEPCO?
No. We weren't, but we could put one in.
Oh,
There is, excuse me, the other just told me that there is.
I thought the whole property is fenced, because it's the same one's down there next to the old restaurant.
I think the
Coach, it's been so long, the restaurant, what was it?
Black Angus.
Black Angus. You know, they're there, right? Is that, they're moving from there or adding to the space, but they're fenced, I believe, with a chain link fence. I just don't want people coming in there, I mean, I would imagine.
There's an existing fence along Middle Drive and along First, but it was all one property, so between SEPCO and this, there's nothing, but the owner just told me there will be a fence. It will all be gated. And one other thing, no site lighting proposed. There will be a light on the building at the entrance. That's a building code issue, but there is no site lighting. And I just got my geometry plan, which was under the other landscape plan. And from the property line to the storage area is 70 feet. From the edge of pavement to the storage area is 100 feet, just over 100 feet. So there's not going to be any activity from 100 feet from the edge of Middle Drive.
Thank you, sir. Other questions from council? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this? Council, may we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request to update the planned unit development zoning for 327 Eglin Parkway.
It's been moved by Councilman Jeter and seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to approve 11.2, 2142 ordinance for planned unit development, the PUD for 327 Eglin Parkway North. Further comment?
I will say this is the first reading. It would be nice by the second reading to maybe have some kind of elevation, since we're talking about the fence and some kind of banner wrap, if it's possible to see an elevation for the second reading, I think would be helpful.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. DeBerry?
I appreciate all that you've gone through to help satisfy residents, because I know they're very concerned about the noise and what have you, and thank you.
I'll go, Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, I also want to appreciate the efforts. I know about 8 years ago, it was the Walmart issue, and then, a few years back, it was the townhome issue, but I'm supporting this because we need to improve that blightiness along Egan Corridor, and this is making steps that direction. I'm sure some may argue that they wish they could have something better there, right? But this is progress, so let's keep it moving. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I'm going to support it. I mean, I think it's definitely going to make the area look better. I wouldn't hold it up over privacy fencing. I would just ask that the applicant understand that we are trying to, take care of blight in the town. So if the front display were to ever change to some construction materials, just, think about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to make the town look better. And if it gets to that point, just please put up a privacy barrier. That's all that I would ask.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Council, please vote. Again, it does pass 5-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you, Council. That'll bring us to item 12, action, direction, discussion. Item 12.1, FY 2022-23 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Ms. Powell, you're on.
All right, I'm ready. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. It's certainly my pleasure to be here tonight to present the results of the city's fiscal year 2023 financial statement audit. Before I start the formal presentation, I would like to take a minute to just thank everyone over at the city for everything they do to provide us the information that we need to discharge our audit responsibilities. So certainly the city manager, the finance director, Nicole Neighbors, Marcus Schumacher, the controller, does a fantastic job, and everyone on the finance team. I also brought a few visitors with me getting the full city experience tonight, but Joel Bradley is the principal in our audit group, and Kendra Byford is a supervisor, and they work diligently to ensure we delivered a quality product on time. I am going to try to keep this very high level and brief because I do know there's a lot to go on the agenda tonight. But we did express an unmodified opinion on the city's financial statements. That is a clean opinion. It is the highest level of assurance that we can provide. And it means, in our opinion, the city's financial statements fairly represent the financial position of the city in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles for the year ended September 30th, 2023. In terms of audit findings, we do have one finding to bring to the attention of governance. We had 3 findings in the prior year audit. We feel like all 3 of those items have been cleared or closed out. The finding that we brought to your attention does relate to grant administration tracking and monitoring. We did have a grant comment last year, but we feel this comment is different. And the comment this year really had to do with a grant that was picked as part of the federal single audit. It was a legacy FEMA grant, so it kind of had been hanging out there for a while. And what we determined through testing is there were expenditures that should have been reported in a prior fiscal year on the schedule of federal awards. So that is the comment to bring to the attention of governance. The city has developed good policy with respect to grant administration. It's really just ensuring that policy is followed and captured for all grants, and part of the solution continues to be software that city has provided, that has purchased to help manage all of these moving parts. We do not have any material instances of non-compliance with laws, regulations, or grant agreements to bring to your attention. There was one new accounting pronouncement that the city was required to implement this year, GASB 96. It deals with subscription-based information technology agreements, and it has to do with when the city has certain long-term contracts to access cloud-based software, that instead of recording those expenditures as the contractor or the vendor is paid, then an obligation is put on the books for the entire contractual liability. There were about 6 agreements that fell into the scope of this accounting pronouncement. I will tell you as an auditor, I think it provides of us no value to the users of the financial statements, and it creates a lot of time for all the accountants in the room, but we don't get to pick what Gatsby lets us do. They said we needed to implement, so the city did implement this year. In terms of financial results, just a few quick snapshot here. The city does have in its governmental activities $45.3 million of fund balance at the end of the fiscal year under audit. That's about an $8 million increase from the previous fiscal year. About $4 million of that related to the sale of the fairgrounds properties, so kind of keep that in mind. In terms of the categories of fund balance, about 11% is unassigned, 21% is assigned, 34% is committed, and 34% is legally restricted. The question that I most often, get as an auditor, as a governmental auditor, is, what do these classifications of fund balance mean? This is taken from a note in the city's financial statement audit. But looking at restricted fund balance, that is truly fund balance where there is a third-party restriction on how it can be spent. So in the general fund, the largest restriction the city has is the discretionary sales taxes, which was voted in by a voter referendum. So your hands are tied to some extent on how that money can be spent. And the CRA, the $6.2 million is all tax increment financing that must be spent inside the district. And then your other governmental funds, the bulk of that public safety money relates to the Florida Building Code Improvement Fund, and the state basically has some statutory restrictions on how those funds are spent, along with some law enforcement, federal and state forfeitures. Committed fund balance is fund balance that you as a body, as the council, either by ordinance or resolution, has indicated you wanted it used for a particular purpose. So at the end of the fiscal year under audit, about $1.7 million for affordable housing projects, $3.8 million for perpetual care of the Beale Memorial Cemetery, and $9.8 million for natural disaster recovery. Assignments are basically things that are done in the budget process, so where you've earmarked money for a particular purpose for an ongoing project that may have started in one year and carried over to a future year. $9.5 million of assigned fund balance, which leaves unassigned fund balance of $4.9 million that can be used for any allowable city purpose. This, just trying to give you a little bit of visuals. Joel did a great job of putting together some really nice statistics looking at the city over a 10-year period, also comparing the city to like cities. I chose not to present all of that tonight because it would really be a very long presentation, but have some data to share if anyone is interested. So I just picked a couple of slides that I thought were interesting. So again, over a 10-year period, this kind of shows the city's cash and investments, and we're still talking about governmental activities, kind of looking at the balance of cash and investments and then comparing it to expenditures over that same time period, stripping out capital expenditures. So you can really see an increase starting in 2020, and this is a result of the COVID pandemic. There was a lot of money that came to governments as a result of the COVID pandemic, so you can see the spike, and basically that the city is sitting at around 18 months for the past 3 years. The low point in 2018 was about 9 months of cash and investments compared to operating expenditures. This, again, over a 10-year period is kind of looking at expenditures in the governmental activities. The different colors, the blue is general government, that color in the middle that's supposed to be orange, but it's kind of looking yellow on the slide is public safety. The green is culture and recreation, and then the second yellow is capital expenditures or capital outlay. So you can see in fiscal year 23, the year under audit, 36 million of expenditures in the governmental funds, and of that, 6 million was capital projects. So you can kind of see the top yellow, the volatility in the expenditures really have a lot to do with capital projects. For example, in 2019, that was when the field office complex was constructed. So 2023, some of the major capital projects was about $1.5 million between the landing and the museum, $1 million on Round the Mound. There was a cemetery administration building, street improvements, so many different types of capital expenditures that took place during 2023 at the city of Fort Walton Beach. This looks at the operating profit of your enterprise funds. There are 3 enterprise funds that the city reports on. That's utilities, sanitation, and stormwater. Again, we want to see operating profit in those funds because the charges to the users should cover the operating costs. So all three of the enterprise funds had operating profit during the year under audit. In terms of net income, there were small losses in the sanitation and stormwater fund, but they're still very much healthy unrestricted net assets. In terms of long-term debt, at the end of the fiscal year under audit, there was $36.8 million of bonded debt. There was no new bonded debt issuance during the year under audit. The city is certainly in compliance with its bond covenants. And of that $36.8 million, about 42% is in the business type activities and 58% is in the governmental activities. Again, looking at long-term debt per capita over a 10-year period, you can see that, at the end of 2023, we're at, various points, but 2019, the highest year was basically because of the new bond issue for the field office complex, and since then, the debt's been paid down. And last but not least, our pension funds. There's about $97.8 million set aside for the city's 3 defined benefit pension funds. The general employees plan is closed to new entrants. However, the police and fire plan is still active. With pensions, there is a lot of actuarial estimates. There's a lot of volatility. So the funded status of all 3 plans did come down this year. And that is really because of the way those investment losses from 2022 flow through the actuarial system. So I really like to just focus on, the city contributed everything they were required to from an actuarial basis for the three plans. So I know that was fast and furious, but I would be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, Angela. Any questions from council for Ms. Pelton? Mr. Walker?
Just one, looking at the assets and looking at that net statement of net position, what is a non-depreciable that accounted for the 2.981 of adjustments there? That's page 363 in the package, page 10 of your financial statements, I believe.
I'm a little off on the pages, but a non-depreciable asset would be like land. It's not depreciated. So other items like buildings and other capital improvements, equipment is all depreciated. Land is an asset that is non-depreciable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Berry?
We spoke on grants, and we have our grant analysts here on staff. The reporting is up to date. Help me with this. Up to date is what it should be.
The city has good policy as it relates to grant administration. The issue at hand was this legacy grant. The expenditures relating to it took place in previous years, and that was not accounted for. The expenditures were recorded in the city's financial statements, but they were not recorded as grant expenditures on the schedule of federal awards. And so, it's important that the city follow their policies and that the administration side and the finance side are linked together to ensure that, all grant activity is identified and reported in the time period that it takes place.
And what can you suggest on how we can improve the reporting?
I think part of the solution is certainly the complete implementation of the Amplifund software. I think probably the other challenge is just, it's a bit of herding cats because there's a lot of different departments involved in the different types of grants that the city has. So it's ensuring that everyone, you know, in all phases of management understands what the process is and that, you know, that it is monitored and followed.
Would educational, like yearly annual education, updating the staff?
I always am a firm believer in, you know, the more we can educate and train individuals, the better off the organization is going to be.
Do I need to make a motion to have staff help guide me here?
I don't believe so. No, we work with the finance staff. We take care of it.
Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Pallin. Any other questions from council?
thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to make a comment? All right, council, we need, we'd like, maybe get a motion to approve and accept the annual comprehensive financial report that was just given us.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Meade, second by Councilman Schmidt to accept the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023, as presented by Warren Averett Auditors and Angela Ballard. Any further comment?
Thank you.
Council, please vote. Thus passed unanimously. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Angela. Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll bring us to item 12.2. Request for major development order amendment to Freedom Beacon Park, Phase 2 at 1900 Lewis Turner Boulevard. Mr. Persett.
Thank you, Mr. Growth Management Director. So this is a request to amend the major development order for Phase 2 of Freedom Beacon Park, Freedom Tech as well, is known now. So this request, as Mayor Bull, over the years we've had various requests in front of council, including the original plan unit development, and then there was a Phase 1 with that original PUD for the infrastructure for the site. And then Phase 2 was in front of council back in May of 2021, and Phase 2 major development order was for the apartments on the northern part of the site. So recently, we did receive a request from the applicant to amend the major development order for Phase 2 for the apartments. This is really a pretty small amendment. In our land development code, we have two processes for major development order amendments. One is a minor amendment to a major development order, and then the other is just a standard amendment to a major development order. When this came in, staff reviewed it, and unfortunately felt like it was just outside the scope of a minor amendment. So I don't want to say it's a minor change, but really it's just one step above a minor change. What they're requesting to do here is it's the apartments. The project's actually under construction now. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the apartments and the development going on up there on Lewis Turner Boulevard, off of Lewis Turner. And so this request is on the very north part of the site where there were parking spaces. They want to put in some additional garages that were not on the originally approved civil site plans. And then with that, it will remove a few parking spaces that were in that area for the new garages. And then they want to place those parking spaces down on the kind of southeast and southwest corners of the apartment phase so that the number of parking spaces remains unchanged. It just adds those garages. But then in turn, the original plans that were approved showed access on Roberts Road as well as Judge Maney Way. Those accesses would be removed. And when staff reviewed it, that was really what we felt triggered it coming from council versus something that would be done administratively at the staff level, was that with those access points going away, that's something that I couldn't prove myself, we felt. So with that, we did speak with the applicant, and their intent originally was not to have those access points, but they did make it onto those original plans that were approved by you all. So that's why we're here, just to have your input and hopefully approval of this item tonight. So staff has reviewed the request and staff is recommending approval of this change. There's just one condition that we did include within the proposed major development order amendment, which was notice says please revise the plans to shift the location of the trash compactor and recycling to the intersection outside of the fence The city no longer owns the property beyond the fence, therefore to prevent complications in the future, the trash compactor / recycling must be moved outside of the fence. So that was just the only note, just wanted to make sure I said on here. With that, there's no direct financial impact to the city, and staff does respectfully recommend City Council's authorization for the mayor to execute the Phase 2 Major Development Order Amendment for the Latitude at Freedom Beacon Park, located at 1900 Lewis Turner Boulevard, as presented. I know the applicant's here as well, so thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Odo, please.
Good evening. I'm Jay Odo, the developer at Freedom Technology Center. To make it a little easier to see, this is the layout of the apartments. The bottom is north on this one, so you can see it better. You'd be coming in from Lewis Turner this direction. Back here in the back, we have rooms. You can see there's garages on the side. We do have enough room to put garages back here, so what he's talking about is we're going to add 4 of these garage buildings along the rear. Those are 7 units, 7 garages per building, 4 buildings. We originally had temporary accesses here out toward the courthouse. That's the courthouses. Anyway, towards the courthouse and Roberts Road. Those were only ever designed to be temporary. We were originally getting some proposed financing from HUD, which we did not end up getting. We thought we were going to build the apartments before potentially this rest of the infrastructure was in. So HUD wanted us to have guaranteed access to the sides. Those were always planned to go away. But turned out that took so long that we got the infrastructure in anyway, so we never needed them. So that's the ones that they're referring to. There was one here, one over there that were always meant to go away, but they were shown on the development order that was approved as being there. So those are the changes that are being made, and if you have any questions, if you got any friends who want to live here, first units will be ready in June. It'll be the nicest place in town. So come on over and see what we have, or go to Zatitude.com. Check us out.
All right, thank you, sir. Question from council for Mr. Odo. Mr. Schmidt.
Mr. Odo, I know everything you've done, and a lot of times you've added a lot of amenities or class to it. I know you really did a 30,000 level, but what are some things you're proud of as far as come June, when these folks get inside the apartments, different amenities or
We have a spectacular clubhouse, 7,000 plus square feet of clubhouse that has a full gym, has an Amazon package center, got a lot of, we have a thing called a Zen Den where people can come in and work, instead of working in their apartment, they can come in there and work on their computer and be quiet space. We've got gallery areas, we've got games in there, super fast Wi-Fi. That opens directly onto a massive swimming pool area with huge outdoor kitchen and barbecue grills. And we have a dog park, a car wash, bicycle storage. We've taken several of our garages and they're going to be permanent, secure bike storage for the residents. So just a tremendous amount of amenities that we put in. We have a very large green space where the kids can come out and play frisbee or football or things. So we didn't cram these all together. There's lots of open green space. And then we do have these apartments, the garages, we'll end up having 72 garages available. Those can be outfitted with electric car charging. We do on the site, we'll have, I think it's 16 car charging stations installed by Tesla that are all around the parking lot for the people that have electric vehicles. So there's another certification that we've gotten. It's called Earthcraft certification. Costs several $100,000, but it is that you're certified green construction, super efficient energy wise construction for keeping the power bills down and being as green as we can. A lot of good thought went into it, but it will be the highest level luxury apartments in the market.
Look forward to it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Other questions? Or either Mr. Pursetti or Mr. Odom. Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you and continue to do what you do in Fort Walton Beach. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The home tool will open first week of May.
Oh. Nice. Anyone from the public wish to comment?
Just want to know how many units, how many, I did.
312.
312.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Council, may we get a motion?
Mayor, so moved. The major development order, Freedom Beacon Park Phase 2 amendment.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Schmidt, second by Councilman Chief to approve the major development order amendment for Freedom Beacon Park Phase 2. That's it. Any further comment?
Yeah, this is meeting a lot of needs our community has, so again, thank you.
Thank you. Council, please vote. That was passed unanimously. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Odom. That brings us to item 12.3, Round the Mountain funding request. Mr. Peters.
Yes, Mayor, this is something that we have discussed, and you and I about getting this on get out in front of this. We did pledge some money for the PD&E phase of this of Around the Mountain. This next phase will be the design, you know, it's been recommended that if show that you're interested, put a little skin in the game, your projects kind of get up to the top of the board. So we are actually, as you know, we are we're the fourth in line. There's 3 shovel-ready projects in front of us, and we're the one directly beneath that. So if you want to take the reins from here, the request is sent to you.
It was noted and pointed out to me by FDOT that that those 3 projects ahead of us were very high dollar projects, and doesn't look like they will get funding immediately. The funds just aren't there. Ours is a relatively low cost request, and with city putting money into it, FDOT looks more favorably on those that has public interest and public awareness. So it's a kind of an insurance policy. Nothing's guaranteed that we're going to move up on the list, but history proves that if we put skin in the game now, we'll be much better positioned to have this project move forward in a more timely manner. If we approve this tonight, it will be presented at the TPO meeting next week. Travis will be there, and it'll be presented, and we'll see how many heads nod in the right direction. So I'm excited about us doing this to move this forward. The last thing I want to see is this project get stagnated. And with that, I'll answer questions, or Mr. Peters can answer questions.
So this is a good notion, if you will, to show public support from the city of Fort Walton Beach.
We've done this in the past. History shows that we've done this in the past with great success. We failed to do that on the bridge 25 years ago when the bridge was first brought up, and the city was ambivalent about what to do with it, how to make it happen, and it showed. We languished for 20 plus years. What history is showing us recently is if we show interest, put our money where our mouth is, the state recognizes that, and they will support us.
Just out of curiosity, how did we arrive at the 50,000 number?
The first number that was whispered in my ear was 100,000, and I said that was too rich for our blood at this point in time. But I felt if we showed 50,000, that would be an adequate amount to show that we had a great interest in making this move forward. So that number came from me, but it was an attempt to not go with the 100K that was suggested.
But this is for the state to spend, what is it, 600 million for the total project?
312.
But that's just for the right of way.
No, this
No,
is
the
only,
right of way is like 275, the project was like 46.
this is only for the design phase, which is 1.7 million, something like that. We're the lowest cost of the 3 above us are over 10 million each, and are likely not to be funded this current go around. Ours is an affordable project. I think we'll be viewed positively with putting our money where our mouth is.
I'm not sure where Councilman Smith was going with that, but if he was suggesting that 100 will help us twice as much, I mean, I would be for 100 because I think it's Is that, I mean, would that be?
It wouldn't hurt us. I'll guarantee it wouldn't hurt us. No.
It's about 500,000, Mr. Mayor. Million?
If you want to,
We just got $1.5 million. We just got $1.5 million.
If you want to underwrite full design process, I'm sure the state would love you. They
I think it's a
come shake your
single,
hand.
I think it's a very large project that would benefit our community immensely. So 50 or 100 is a drop in the bucket compared to what the state is going to spend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a show of faith on our part that we want this to move forward. And 100,000 would be greatly, they would, if they have a big smile at 50, they'll have a bigger smile at 100.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
And again, I know this is a very low dollar overall budget-wise, but just from a Bean County perspective, is this going towards the design phase so that as we enter that design phase, that 50,000 count towards the total cost that the city would be applying towards?
Right, towards the design phase.
The product anyways?
Right.
So kind of leaning back more towards Councilman Jeters. You know, I mean, I think unanimously the community has supported this project for many years and multiple councils that we sat on. I mean, if this money is going to be used kind of like a down payment of the house is going towards the principal, whatever it is, however, but
Yeah, it will only be used for the design phase. It can't be used, if we pledge it for the design phase, that's all it can be used for.
And when it comes time to pay that ticket for the design, whether it's $50,000 or $100,000 goes towards that cost.
That's correct.
All right, thank you, sir.
That's correct. Mr.
I would like to publicly state I was joking about that. Was not being serious. But I do have some, just going to walk through it with you, Jeff. I appreciate this document. It really brings the past together. So starting in 2017, we taxpayers paid $125,000 for professional planning services for a downtown master plan. And the scope of work for the master plan focused mainly on the transportation network. So I don't know if that's, you know, designing. So what was that $125,000 and focused mainly on the transportation network? I know it had to be conceptual because the PD and E is not finished yet, and I went and read about PD and E's, and things can happen in there in that PD and E that changes things, right? And if we design today, pay for designing services, and something changes in that PD and E, we just make a little modification, change it. Once again, I feel a little bit like we're getting, you know, I always feel like we're getting to a pot committed hand. It's like, well, you know, you put 125, you put 50, you put 75, you put 125. And last week, at our last meeting, it's come up twice, skin in the game. It came up, a couple of you brought it up at the last meeting, that $125,000 was going to show that we got skin in the game. Here we are 2 weeks later, we got another 50 on top of the 125. How much skin do we have to have in the game before the PD and E is done? Which I've asked for updates on the construction cost, which if you go look at the master plan, it first starts off, the most important part of all of this is transportation and financing. And I've asked about updated construction cost and all of that, and we're not there yet. And we're being asked again to spend $50,000 more to show more skin in the game. So, you know, I mean, I've got lots more questions. City Council authorized 2017. We had $120,000 for continuation of services. So I'm adding that right. That's $245,000, and that was for continuation in 17. In 18, we approved $50,000 taxpayers' money towards local match requirements, complete the feasibility study, which has an overall cost of $750,000. Do we know if that number from 1.3, you know, on November the 13th of 18, if that overall cost is still at $750, and how much of that has been bought down, for lack of a better word, like a down payment, as Councilman Schmidt said? Do we know how much of that's been bought down, or how much of it's left?
I'm not sure. I don't know how much is left of that.
December the 12th. January the 9th. That was, sounds like more skin in the game. City Council confirming, we had to confirm what we said, which was to give them another $50,000 for more feasibility studies. And that goes on to complete the project development PD&E study for downtown master plan transportation alternative to be around the mound, which has an estimated cost of $2 million. $2 million is for the PD&E study. Is that correct? Shown in 1.4 of the background material. Do you know if that $2 million, am I reading that correct, that it is towards $2 million is the estimated cost for the PD&E for downtown master plan transportation alternative?
That's correct.
April 27, 2021, committing up to $1 million to complete the, so we, in 2021, we committed $1 million to the PD&E, is that correct? Taxpayers. Current status of Around the Mound project is in the PD&E stage with estimated completion in early 2025. I made a note out here. Could it find problems or obstacles that would prevent, that would be, for example, the power lines, can't move those, and sorry about that, but I mean, things get found late, sometimes they get found early. Just again, I've said it a couple times, we're putting the cart before the horse in the field. Unless you guys are hearing things that we're not aware, I'm not aware of up here, it's like, we're not ready to design yet. The alternative, we've got one alternative 2B, which is on the books, but that's why the PD&E is being studied, so they can find out if it needs to be rerouted. So when we're talking about designing, aren't we talking about the layout and structure of the road?
Right. That's right. Yeah, they're doing the study to find out where the best location is. And then the design, once they make that determination, then it gets designed.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know, I mean, do we have an idea of how long this design function will take?
How long will it design?
I have no idea. Can I help you with this? This is a pledge. So if this doesn't happen, they're not getting any money. So if it doesn't get to the point, if they find out before we get to the design phase that this can't happen, we didn't spend any money, because all we're doing is pledging money.
That's correct. Mr. Smith, that's correct.
And the last meeting, we pledged, committed, spent $125,000 on the design, the group that comes over from Tallahassee to conduct community, gather the input and all that was $125,000, and that's a commitment, and that's where that came up, and you said it, and I believe Mr. Mayor said it, that, that was showing skin in the game, and I'm like, well, we're committed, and here we are 2 weeks later, and we're committing more, and for design, and pledging it makes more sense. Pledging it makes more sense than spending it. I felt that the spending of that was, it may have ulterior motives than what it actually was described as designing. It was over here to gather input.
Well, I think what you can look at the last thing that we approved is, we can use that design whether Around the Mound happens or not. Around the Mound doesn't have to happen for us to use what comes out of that design phase.
Well, the design phase, again, it was, I know it was going to be architectural, but also a big part of it, I believe, was 4 to 6 meetings in the community. They're going to be gauging community input. Is it wanted? Is it supported? Is it liked? Is it disliked? Are people against it? I mean, it's a PR. We spent $125,000 to go out there and spend PR, and that'll come with architectural designs and renderings, but if the Around the Mound doesn't come together, it's like, well, shoot, that road's not there, and those buildings aren't going to be moved. I can appreciate that, but tonight it just seems like, and $50,000 in the scheme of things is so small, but I just again feel that it's more skin in the game, more skin in the game, and for you poker players, that pot committed, we're getting there. At some point you go, look, I've already got so much money in it, let's just go ahead and commit it all. And go, okay, now we're committed to it all. And to go back to the public, after these PR meetings, And they said, well, you know, the resistance is pretty strong. You're like, well, we've already got $6 million in it. Y'all want to just walk away from that? You know, it's a pot committed approach that I'm trying to stay away from. I do play poker with chips, of course, but tokens, all sorts of credits. You know, the rationale, logic, whatever you want to call it, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate it. And only time will tell. I just don't know if on that three-pronged, or the priority list, we've got the Okaloosa Walton TPO, and, you know, someone telling you that the budget might be reduced or whatever. I know y'all said it, I don't think it firmly commits us, but the first priority is US 98 SR 30 at $38 million. And that's our own TPO has said that's priority number one. So if the state's budget's getting low, the next 2 or 3 don't have, I think, am I right that someone was suggesting since the budget's going low that the 2.75 will rise in priority over, let's just say, the second one? Somehow it got prioritized. Our own TPO is not prioritized.
So that, you got to learn how to read this. And those first 3 projects are at a different phase than our project. They are further along down the line than we are. So right now, these are in right-of-way acquisitions, and that's how much money is going to take for the right-of-way acquisitions. So these projects, while they are on the list above us, they can't really be compared to us because they are further along in the process. We are the furthest along in the process, or I guess at being at number 4 on the list, we are really number 1 in the process through PD&E study. Okay, so what we're saying is once we go to the next phase, which is design, the state works just like the city government. It's pay to play. They have a budget too, and if we can supplement their budget so they can spend money elsewhere, they're going to pick our project to put in the design phase before other projects that aren't committing any money. So all of this is doing, by us pledging this money, is keeping our name highest on the list so it keeps moving. Because I don't want it to be like the bridge. You know, if we don't, we're already pot committed, in my opinion, the second that we put $1 million towards this. Whether it was $1 million or $6 million at this point, it doesn't matter to me because we've already put $1 million in. At that point, I'm not lighting $1 million on fire and throwing it out. We are already pot committed. We have done the work to get it as high on the list as we possibly can. We have the momentum. This pledge will help keep the momentum to keep it rolling. We had a meeting at the convention center, and the amount of support that we got for that project. If we're sitting here talking about pledging, you know, another 50 or 100 grand on top of what we've already done, I do think that is ultimately, at the end of the day, a drop in the bucket to keep the project moving forward. Because if we do lose momentum, when these projects lose momentum, they take years to get back up and running again. And so I personally don't want to lose that momentum because it seems like we definitely do have community buy-in, and I don't personally want to sit here and experience a bridge situation where it takes 40 years to do something that could have been done in 10.
Well, I appreciate all that because you said some things very nicely. I may have to say, differently, but, the pay to play approach just feels like dirty politics to me.
It's a reality, though.
And I don't like being in it. I feel dirty. I really do. And then to think that last 2 weeks ago we paid $125,000 to somebody out of Tallahassee, and to call it a foregone conclusion, pot committed, whatever you want. I'm like, well, just bring the $125,000 back. We've already got people up here and I might be one of them that says, let's just do it, but it's the pay to play. Pay these guys over here $125,000 and we'll keep you on top of the list. I don't feel good about that. And here we are for another $50,000. Come on, you'll feel good.
If you can find a way to change that, I support you in any way possible that I can.
I would suggest that we change the political system by voting people in who won't play the game dirty and play that game, but that would just be me, and I know I might be one of a few. But anyway, I thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Mr. Schmidt, you want to talk?
Yes, I mean, to be completely honest with you, I've never built a bridge, I've never moved to US Highway 98, so going into all this fairly green myself. But over the last 6 years or so, seeing the bridge come to fruition and now seeing this to come to fruition, it's kind of like sometimes we got to pay an appraiser before we close on a house. Well, there's a contract right there. The buyer and the seller think it's worth that. Why do we need the appraiser sometimes? And this is the house is a much smaller of an example compared to moving US Highway, but what I'm learning is there's just some things that we got to do to go through this process to make sure we close on the house. And I'm not here to say the system is dirty or clean or I don't know. I just know the business of closing on getting a US Highway 98 moved around our downtown. We've seen progress with folks like Mr. Smith and and Mayor Brunierson being on our TPO committee, and I want to make sure we close on this house. We close on moving this US Highway 98, and I'm not suggesting you don't. I guess you mentioned a little while ago about are you seeing things differently or seeing things. Just want to kind of respond to what my perspective is sometimes you got to get the appraiser to close on the house. Seller, buyer, both agree to a price. It'd be nice if we could just remove them out of the way and just close on the house. I don't understand always why these different phases are in there on the design phase specifically, but I know I want to make sure we keep this the #1 priority. And if this pledge doesn't happen, we get the money back. If it does happen, the money that we pledge goes towards the total cost that we'd be paying anyways. So, I mean, it's a win-win.
I appreciate it, David. Let me, if I can, Mr. Mayor, respond to him. I like the analogy of the house. It's my business. Home inspections are part of it as well. And so the bank's going to require the appraisal. The buyer and their agent's going to look for the home inspection. And I sometimes feel like we're going ahead and closing prior to the inspection, i.e. in this case, the PD&E study is back, right? We're going to go ahead and close, but not really, because it's a pledge, so I can appreciate that too. So I do feel better about the pledge. The $125,000 2 meetings ago for a design, I wished I had that to do over and wished I knew more and wished I could take it back because I think I see it differently now. So yeah, I think we're closing prior to a PD&E study being done. I think it's probably not going to find any problems, but we've thought that, you know, good staff, professional, everything, and we go and find FP&L won't play, they won't cooperate, or won't allow us, or it doesn't make financial sense to do it. And I guess to that too, it's kind of like closing on a house without knowing what the payment is, right? I mean, 2017, 19 to 17 or 19 are the last financials in here. Jeff, I don't know how, Nicole, the master plan says that will be updated. Those numbers will be updated, those financials. And we're up here spending money, pledging money, but we're not doing what the master plan that we spent all the money to get done from all these professionals that told us what to do, and we're not doing it. We don't have updated financials on it. And so the pledging tonight is different. We're pledging 50,000 if it comes back, but I want updated financials on that master plan. How can I get them, Jeff?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you talking about the one from 2017? I'm not sure what you're asking me.
So if the master plan includes some calculations and figures in there, and I think
But we didn't calculate that.
I'm sorry?
We didn't calculate that, correct, Jeff? The
I-
city did.
I mean, it was 300.
I don't know, I wasn't here.
So this is what I think is probably going to happen, is once the PD&E is complete, we will know where the road is, because the master plan didn't know where the road was. It was just conceptual, like you said, right?
Yeah.
So once the PD&E is done, we'll know where the road is, and then probably at that time, they'll probably come back and Matrix Design's gonna want another $125,000 to update the numbers in the plan. So I think before the PD&E is done, there's gonna be no way to get the numbers because we don't know 100% where the road is going to go and all that's gonna entail. Once the PD&E is complete, if you want those numbers, I'm sure Matrix Designs would probably be happy to update them for a nominal fee. So,
This whole pledging is just a little curious operation to me. We've got the money in the bank. We got $1.5 million. We've got money in the bank. I don't know why anybody would doubt if the state comes along and says, here's where the road's going to go, that we're not going to fulfill it, work our best. So I don't know why we're asking for a $50,000 pledge, but y'all apparently know.
as a car dealer, I can't tell you how many times I've had people come back and tell me they're gonna buy a car, never to show up again. So if you want me to take that car off the market, you're giving me money. That's the only way it's happening. So I guess I kinda understand it from that perspective.
We have those deposits too.
All right, Mr. Jeter, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I love all the analogies too, from buying a house to playing poker. I'm ready to double down and push our chips in. Let's give him 100 and let's make this deal happen. We got a developer and it just changed. He didn't know if he could do a garage or not. Like, changes happen along the way. We gotta be fluid and we gotta be reactive and we gotta be ready to pay the play.
Was that a motion, Mr. Jeter?
Okay, we have a motion. Any comment?
Anybody want to comment on that? We are open to comments, if anybody wants to make one. Other than that, I'm ready for a motion, sir.
It was your suggestion. You want the motion or me to do it?
I make the motion to pledge $100,000 towards the around the bound design plans.
Second.
All right, and moved by Councilman Smith, second by Councilman Jeter to approve a $50,000 pledge towards the Round Mountain Design Plan. Any further comment? Comment?
I do.
Okay, sure.
This is a very serious subject, and everybody has a different take on it, and mine is not a pay to play. Mine is we actually have a community consensus, and this is not only the city delivering a resolution to the state saying that we would like this, this is saying the residents and the taxpayers support this as evidenced by that deposit. So I think this is a big step for the city to be able to both agree on a plan or a direction and say that we will put our money where our mouth is. So I'm going to support the motion.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from council? Council, please vote. And it does pass 5-1. Thank you, council. And I'm going to propose now we take a 10-minute break because the next 3 items are probably going to take us a little while to get through. So it's 8:12 now. Let's be back in here at 8:22.
However many years.
I cashed my ticket in already.
5 minutes per turn?
What's that?
5 minutes.
All right, we're going to reconvene. A correction from, as I closed out, right before we took our break, when I said that the approved pledge was $50,000. In fact, the motion was for $100,000. It was moved and seconded and voted 5-1. It is a $100,000 pledge towards the roundabout design. Just want to make that clarification. All right, and now we're at item 12.4, Charter Amendment number 1. Compensation to elected officials, draft ordinance for discussion. Ms. Cox.
Okay, so just a really brief intro. So the next 3 items are the charter amendments we've been discussing. As you all know, this started back in 2021 when a group of citizens submitted 3 proposed charter amendments to the Supervisor of Elections. In March of 2021, the Supervisor of Elections certified those 3 proposed charter amendments, and so today we are discussing those 3 amendments. What you have in the agenda packet are draft ordinances. They're not intended to be final at this time. They were not advertised for tonight. Once you give us the general direction tonight on each of them, then we will go ahead and advertise them for 2 public hearings, and the public will have, opportunity to participate on multiple occasions, at least 2. So the first one has to do with compensation to elected officials, and this proposed amendment would prohibit compensation to elected officials. This is a policy decision for you all to determine if you want to proceed with this charter amendment. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions from council for Ms. Cox?
Seems as if we did this, I don't know if it was last meeting or the meeting before, but we've already kind of given you a direction that this is what we would like to do, haven't we?
Right. By either meeting in April, you said on the budget amendment that you wanted certain specifics relating to the word or, relating to whichever is lesser, and that is the third one we'll talk about. So on this, if you've looked at this and this ordinance looks good to you, we will go ahead and advertise it for first reading if you're ready, if there's no questions on the way it's proposed in here.
Is this how it was with the,
This one is unchanged from the original back in 2021.
This one would pass the legal muster.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, no comments on that one?
I was saying, if there's no comments, then assume we go forward with this as it's worded
Okay,
for the next
then
meeting.
we'll move on to,
You need a motion?
Yeah, I guess we need to make a motion.
I mean, that was my intent, but when I hear from you that you feel like you've already given direction, I mean, you don't have to make a
Let's do a
motion.
motion, let's do a motion.
Okay,
I make a motion that we approve the language as presented on Charter Amendment 1 and move to be placed on the ballot in the November election.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Walker, second by Councilman Smith to accept the wording in Charter Amendment 1 as presented. And comments now. Mr. Jeter? Oh.
and so we're approving the wording of the concept for you to prepare this for a noticed meeting to approve this.
that's right.
Okay.
So we're just having multiple discussions about the items. This was the first time you've seen it in full draft ordinance form with the November election date in there, with the proposed ballot language, just to, before we bothered advertising, in case there were going to be any significant changes, we would bring it to you, which is what we're doing tonight. So the ordinance will look largely the same for this one when it comes to you in first reading, which may be at the next, either the next meeting in April. That's a question for Jeff and Kim maybe, depending on advertising deadlines, but it could be in April or May.
Yeah, remember, we've got one meeting in May, we've got the April 23rd meeting would be our next one, and then the next one would be, after that would be May 21st.
What about the requirements for the time period? I know if it's a regular ordinance, we only have to do 10 days prior to the second meeting. So that's what I don't know about right now.
Yeah,
Still
well,
waiting.
right now, we have time for April 23rd, but if there are changes to any of them, then we may push it back one. So it'll depend how the three go. Because if I have to make changes, then we may not make those advertising deadlines, so.
And we prefer to do them all at once. I mean, when it's advertised, we want to advertise all three at the same time.
That was my intent, but it's really up to you all. I would suggest doing them all at the same meeting.
I think it's less confusing to do that. Okay. Mr. Jeter?
Yeah, just going to say, I know we're not here to overanalyze every single one of these and hash them out. They're going to a ballot due to the hard work of a lot of people, but the campaign starts now for some of these, and I'm going to tell people to vote no for this one, so I think it's only right that I continue as last meeting to vote no for this one, knowing they're going to a ballot and support that, but I'm going to continue to say that.
Any other comments from council? All right, it's been moved by Councilman Walker, seconded by Councilman Smith to accept this language as it's presented. Please vote. And it does pass 5-1. Thank you, Council.
Okay, the next charter amendment deals with special assessments. It's been revised a little bit from the original for legalities, but it accomplishes the same goal, and you've all talked about this several times, so if no one has any other questions on this one, you can go ahead and give your directive for whether to advertise this ordinance for first reading.
Questions or comments from council?
Do we need to let the public ask, or can I go ahead and make a motion, or?
I get, well, we just let the public see if they want to comment. If there's no questions or comments right now from us, audience gets their shot at making a comment. Seeing none, it's back to us.
To make a motion to put Charter Amendment number 2 as written. I guess it'll be on the April, well, we're putting them all three together anyways. To approve Charter Amendment number 2, the language as written, for advertisement for
The next available meeting?
the next available
That we
meeting.
can make the advertising day?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, been moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to approve the language as written, presentation on the next available meeting the advertising requirements. Further comment? Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously 6-1. Ms. Collins?
Okay, the next and final of the 3 amendments is the limitation on budget increases. This one is where Council Member Smith at the last meeting made a motion to direct us to include the word or, and there we're talking about the lesser amount between the CPI and let me just read it to you. Okay. We would do a limit to an increase from the prior year's expenditures in an amount which is the lesser of 3% or the percentage change of the then current CPI. As your motion last time, that ordinance was supposed to come to you at either the first or second meeting in April. So we have that as option 1, which is also known as the watch group version. Then staff put together 3 other options, and I will let the finance director describe those to you, but there are 4 variations that we're going to talk about.
Thank you, Ms. Cobb. Yeah, so I presented 3 different ones because it was directed for us to bring back an or. I brought back or in the language, but with the COLA and not the CPI. There's kind of it's like a weird, CPI is very fluid. It comes out every month. CPI is a number, like for 2023, CPI was 304.702. The way it was written doesn't really make sense. It needs to be some kind of percentage, maybe an average over the 12 months for CPI. What's the time frame? When do we establish this? COLA is a number that's based off of CPI, but has a lot of other mathematical factors that are in it. And it's established annually in December, so you know what number you're using. So I recommended COLA in all 3 of mine and not CPI. And I also did an and because as council knows, staff would really want the and in there, not the or. And then I also took out the or and the and I just used the colon. And I also amended the exceptions as well. So if you guys have any questions on any of those, we're here to discuss.
All right. Questions from Ms. Neighbors on her proposed amendments? Mr. Jeter.
So with all these versions on here, is there a specific version out of all the ones that you presented that you would, not necessarily staff suggest, but what?
The one that I would recommend, and I'll put this out there just because I'm under the red light, as a finance director, a CPA, a citizen of Fort Walton, and a business owner of Fort Walton, I don't recommend any of these. But if I were to have to be directed to do one, it would be my version of the exceptions with the and.
Would be which?
My version with the end.
And.
Yes, but my version of the exceptions.
So that would be your option 3 in the.
Yes.
Just for clarity to council.
Any other questions from council or anybody? Anyone from the public wish to comment? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor Ron Anderson, Councilman, excuse me, Debbie Riley, 207 Thomas Manor Court. I want to comment on the city budget, on the referendum for that. Honestly, and I'm just looking at myself personally, you know, as a resident, and then also just, you know, the people that I know, that I relate to, you know, on a daily basis, and people that I work with that are citizens of the city of Fort Walton Beach. And I just, you know, I don't understand how a citizen that don't know how to read a financial statement, never saw a budget before, and I'm not saying every resident in the city of Fort Walton Beach, but I'm looking at that as somewhat detrimental. You want voters to vote on the expenditures, a city's expenditures, on limitations. Most voters don't even know when they go down the ballot and see referendums, what they're reading. They don't even know how to vote for different judges. They just go in and check the box. Because they don't take the time to research it, to go back in and look over whatever decisions they've made during their legal career, what was good, you know, for the community or not. They just don't, that's just not something they do on a normal basis. And I just think it would be detrimental to allow citizens, I understand they're tax-paying citizens, you can ask, a lot of them don't even know how much they're paying in taxes. They don't even know what the sales tax rate is. So I just think it's absurd that we will put a budget, a city's budget, a local municipality's budget on the referendum to allow voters to make a decision on the expenditures. I don't understand that. You know, and this is a local government entity. And have you, you know, if you've never worked with the government or don't understand the budget, it's very difficult. It's extremely difficult. The average citizen that you don't even know what an earmarked dollar is, and you ask them. They don't even know the allocation methodology on how you can come up with your annual budget. The different categorical items that you have to come up with, the percentage of monies that you got to spend, and you're really asking them to make a decision like that. I don't think that's a wise decision. The other two charter parts in there, I probably would say no to all three of them too. But with the budget part, that's utterly ridiculous to ask the voter to do something like that. They don't even know what is the need of the divisions, the different divisions in the state What are the needs? What is the average cost? What is cost effective? What area is going to be sustainable? You know, what area is non-sustainable? What do we need to move, you know, dollars from different categories, and how do we present that? How do a regular, normal citizen make decisions like that? I'm baffled. I'm baffled. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Mr. Heber.
I guess to go back more so with Nicole. Some of the other ones, and we said earlier, we're not having the weeds tonight, but all the other ones kind of have one option, we're just going forward. This one appears to have 3 or 4. There's going to be a motion for one of those 3 or 4, or some conversation to merge. Is that what we're trying to get at, one of these versions, or just use one of these versions? This one has multiple versions, right? So,
right, and we need direction on which version you guys want us to go with.
So I guess we know the version that you're aiming for. I guess there's a watch group version. I guess what would be some of the things in the watch group version that would just be what's not in there, I guess, and maybe there's meetings about this that I haven't been privileged to discuss about, but what's in there that you were just like, that can't be in there because of this reason, and like, what's a hypothetical for that? Would it stop us from around the mail? Would it stop us from, what would it prevent us from accomplishing? What's
a lot of what it seems they're trying to do with debt is having all debt go out for public referendum and through a general obligation bond. I know when I was talking to Angela earlier, she's never had an experience where a municipality's gone out for one. There's 2 different ones. We have revenue bonds right now where we have certain revenues like water and sewer fees and different things that back that up. A general obligation bond makes taxpayer dollars back it up. So if we don't have enough money, we have to raise the taxpayers ad valorem taxes to pay that debt. And no voters ever going to vote for that. So if that has to go out to vote, are we ever going to get anything done? That's like one of the big things about the debt. So I don't think debt should have to be included in this cap. I mean, there's a bunch of different things. Capital expenditures, there's a lot. If you starting at number 7 on theirs, it kind of goes back and forth as a convoluted and kind of almost contradicts each other. Some of it says capital expenditures and projects have to be excluded, some is not excluded. All special revenue funds should be excluded. That's like asset sales tax, law enforcement trust fund, the CRA fund. They're all legislative items that are restricted to certain things that need to be spent on. So there's no other reason that should be in there. Enterprise funds or running businesses, that shouldn't be in there. Really the focus should be, if you were going to do it, be the general fund. And that's what my exceptions kind of cover.
Thank you, Nicole.
So TDC funds and stuff are included in there, absent sales tax not included in there, is there something you'd like to add?
They did not include that. They did include TDC tax, but they did not include absent sales tax, which right now, the TDC tax and the house and sales tax is budgeted in the general fund, but next year, fiscal year 25, I'm budgeting them in each different special revenue funds, because they are special revenues. I think you track way better that way. So they will not be in the general fund in fiscal year 25.
Comments from council or ideas? Mr. Neri?
I wasn't clear, I didn't hear you correctly when you said the last option that you would recommend.
Yeah, the watch group wants us to do the lesser of the CPI, the 3%, which is another thing, I don't know where they got this random arbitrary 3% from either. That's kind of an arbitrary number. So they want the word or, so that means if COLA is 0, it would be the lesser of, and we would not be able to increase the budget at all. The end gives us a little wiggle room that if the COLA is 0, we can still increase by 3% if needed. Not saying we are going to, but if needed, we can increase by that 3%.
It sounds like maybe the council needs to meet with Nicole a little bit more to get clarification on what her recommendation is. But she's the CPA, she's got the experience, she's a business owner, she's a resident. And I disagree with Deborah, because I think our residents are very educated and have a lot of knowledge about what's going on. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, is that if you don't understand, then you need to ask. Because if you vote for something that you don't know what you're voting for, then you get exactly what you deserve. And it's the residents' responsibility to become knowledgeable. If you're going to vote on something, then you need to know what the heck you're voting on. And that's the residents' responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Jeter.
I mean, we kind of just got some of this earlier today, and there's a lot of red line information, a lot of good information. I just, again, don't want to be here till 11 o'clock tonight going back and forth on some of our discussed. I just hope whatever route we choose going forward, whether it's one of these options or we go back to the table and rewrite anything, add, change, add half-cent sales tax, whatever it is, I just hope that we get it right, and I hope that the voter gets it right, and I hope that we're in a situation, whether it's 3 months from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, to where we're not preventing ourselves from completing a project like Around Mound or completing anything else that could really make this city awesome and great without having to, not necessarily slow it down, because we all know projects when it comes to government, they take time. I mean, they go slow. It takes 6 months to get a banner up. So we know things take time. So I just don't want to see it slow down anymore. Do we all want to be fiscally responsible? Absolutely. I just hope this isn't something where, like Marco Island, we're every year adding to it and changing it. Well, we didn't think about that. I know we can do that, but I just hope that we're not, like we all said earlier, we're ready to double down around it and see it get done. So I hope this isn't doing something to where it could slow the process down and complete an awesome project. Again, it's going to a ballot. It's going to a vote. I just hope we get the wording right to where it makes our city awesome and our kids don't look at us one day and say, why did y'all do that? However we get it. I'm not sure the right route. It's like there's a lot of options up here. Just hope we get to the same place where this doesn't become another divisive time as we've had the last 5 or 6 years. And I know, to use the word timing is everything. There's people that have been up here for a lot longer than me and worked a lot harder on this, and I appreciate all their hard work. I was fortunate enough to come in at a time where we have a new city attorney, or we have a new city manager, and you go, oh, wow, like we said around the mountain earlier, we got some momentum. We're doing some awesome stuff. Let's keep it going. I just hope we don't take an accidental step backwards.
And I just also want to reiterate for the public, an increased budget has nothing to do with increased taxes on taxpayers. It has nothing to do with the millage rate. If a budget does increase, the millage is totally separate, and we're using already paid in taxpayer dollars, other different revenues, half-cent sales tax, TDC tax, enterprise fund revenues, and all of that. So I just want to put that out there because I think that's a big misconception.
Thank you, Nicole.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like a motion to go with option 1, the watch group's version, to be placed, I guess to be, the wording to be, it's already drafted, to be advertised for the next available meeting with the rest of the other 3.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Walker, to go with the watch group option 1. Further comment?
Yes. This, at the end of the day, is about what has happened 3 or 4 years ago. And because councils in the past did not act, it's incumbent upon us. There's kind of been a good thing that's come out of that is if we would have put the first version of this on a ballot, it would have been catastrophic. I have got representatives from the watch group and from the city together. They have talked about their issues to an extent. The watch group has, at this point, said that they are happy with their version, which is in the spirit of their original intent. So that's the one I'm recommending to be placed on a ballot. They're the ones that went out and did the work and got it signed. These are the watch group's charter amendments. These are not city staff's charter amendments. So it's just at the end of the day fulfilling one of the reasons I got up here. And, I think they've done a good job of trying to eliminate all the negative consequences that can happen. And we'll see what happens. The great thing about this is this motion, all it does is put it on a ballot. If you do not believe in it, don't vote for it and tell everybody you know, don't vote for it. If you believe in it, vote for it and tell everybody to vote for it. This is as democratic as a process as it gets. So I'm excited to get it over with. It's been a long time coming, that's for sure.
Yes, sir. Mr. Walker. Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack to this, but just to kind of piggyback off of what Councilmember Smith said, this is one of the most fundamental civic engagements that we've had in the history of the city of Fort Walton Beach. And there's a lot of perspectives that I value that Nicole brings and staff brings that I completely respect. And like Councilman Jeter mentioned, timing is a lot of this. You know, when he came on, and then when Finance Director came on, everyone has their different time on when they land this plane. But someone asked a couple months ago how to amend the charter. And to go out and amend the charter, it takes a certain amount of petitions to be signed and certified by the Supervisor Elections Office. It's the first time this has happened, and there was enough petitions that inspired Travis and others that were in that group to get the petitions pushed out. Again, I will support this because I don't want to stand in front of stopping something that was certified by the Supervisor Elections to trigger a referendum. And over principle, that's a very commendable effort that I would encourage all residents to continue to have and maintain. Call it the power of the people, call it what you want, but that is an effort on how you can amend the city's constitution or the city's charter. And I know that's more of a 30,000 altitude, and there's a lot of things that we can spend time going back and forth until 12 o'clock tonight on exceptions and things like that. But because of enough petitions to be certified by Supervisor Elections and our legal advice has gotten to where the summary ballot language will be legal, I'm ready to get this to a referendum and put this behind us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from council? Mr. Meade.
I've run for, I know I was appointed this term, but I've run for city council. I've walked the streets and I've talked to voters, I've talked to star voters. Star voters are those voters that had voted in the last, I think it's 3 elections, as many people have in this room. Many times, an overwhelming majority of the times, you can start to figure out whose house is who with, as far as a star voter, without even looking at your list. And the overwhelming majority of the time, when you knock on their door and get to talk to them, if they're not at work or otherwise occupied, they engage with you. They've listened to the meetings. They've read newspaper articles. They've done their own research. They know who you are. They know who you're running against. Local government is the purest form of government. And our government says that if we have a number of petitions signed and they're certified, then the people have the ability to make the choice. Not only have they put us here to make decisions, but they can actually empower themselves to make these decisions. So I'm not here today suggesting I'm going to vote for any of these. What I'm here today is saying we've had a sufficient amount of people sign a petition, and I believe that the voters have the right to have that petition follow through to the ultimate ballot. So I am going to support this with the other ones. Not to say I'm going to support the substance of it, but I'm going to absolutely support the process, and I support the voters' ability to comprehend and to have their voices heard. I don't think it's mine to take it from them.
Thank you, sir.
I support it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jeter.
I agree with all 3 of them. Me summed it up best, and I appreciate Councilman Smith's hard work. I'm going to support it as well because of all those reasons. We know it's going to the ballot. How we may vote personally based on our vote and our beliefs may change, but I do agree with it's local government. There was a whole lot of hard work to sign the petitions. I just still stands. I hope we worked with staff enough to get it right, and I appreciate what Councilman Smith said. Had this gone on years ago without some of these changes, it would have hurt us worse. So I just hope we've added enough to it to get it right to where it doesn't hurt us. It's going on the ballot, it's the will of the people, we're here to represent the people. I just hope we got it right.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Council, please vote. It does pass unanimously, 6-0. This is watch group option 1 for 12.6. All right, we're down to item 13, city manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just a couple. We've got, obviously, our next regular council meeting is on the 23rd of April. We do have a special city council workshop on the 16th, a week from today at 8 a.m. at the Annex. We will go over just your priorities from last year, give updates on all of those, just discuss them. We'll give the 3 that we had listed, that you all had listed, where your priorities were public safety vagrancy. The second one was expansion of recreation services, and the third one was employee retention. So we'll give updates on all those, as well as all the projects and the ongoing of everything we got going on from there. So it'll be a good kind of open discussion, especially with the vagrancy topic and what we've done so far, what else can we do to get better at it, as well as the other 2. So that'll be 8 o'clock on Tuesday, the 16th of April.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Scott?
I don't have anything further, thanks.
All right. Well, last night of the apple, mayor's comment. Mr. Alvarez not here, so Mr. Barry, you're up.
Okay. I'd like to thank Nicole and city staff for all your hard work. All your hard work. I really, really appreciate going over the budget and also the 3 items that we just voted on. I appreciate that. And thank you.
Mr. Jeter.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's for Ms. Kopp or Jeff or Chris, but just maybe a quick update on the lease for the Agricultural Library Park. Is that progressing still in the right way? Is there anything we can do to help?
Yeah, Kim talked to Jeff Burns today. They, you want to give them an update? I mean, you sent me the information, but as far as the...
I believe you're waiting on some insurance information, but it's moving along.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see if it can get added on our side, then we should be able to get...
So I think the last issue was there was some disagreement over sovereign immunity language. They have come to an agreement on that, and now we are waiting to see if the city's insurance broker can find a policy that provides the sufficient coverage for the landlord. That could take a couple of weeks at the most, but it should be resolved relatively quickly.
Yeah, they were hesitant initially with thinking there was going to be a lot of big, large, huge special events there, and we'll have some smaller things on the street, but it necessarily wouldn't be just on that. So.
And hopefully we're working behind the scenes on, how that goes when you have delays in a project. Hopefully we have all the other stuff ready when we do get the green light, because we've had this on the books for 6-8 months. We're ready. The park is ready to go.
Yeah, Tiffany's been working with Juliana and purchasing on getting the scope done for the bid package, and our parks guys will, with the trees and irrigation things, and then the mural, obviously.
I'm excited about it. I've showed a lot of people a lot of pictures, and obviously they get the same question. When? You said a year ago. It's like, it's coming. So it's good update.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mead.
I'd like to congratulate my son, who was inducted into the National Honor Society again for the 2nd year in a row. Had to miss his induction, but I know he did well. But I feel very confident that he'll come back to Fort Walton. He loves the city, and he'll hopefully be an attorney and work with me. But my point is, I feel like he'll be up here, and I genuinely hope that the charter amendments and the stuff that we're doing here, that he looks back and says that they made the right decisions. None of us take any of this lightly, and these are big decisions, and there's a lot of work that's gone into it. So I appreciate everybody's hard work, and for those that are watching, know that everything we do with a lot of thought and a lot of effort, and so we'll move forward in that direction.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt.
I would like to echo everything Councilman Mead just said, and I hope to see my son up here one day as well. Probably won't maybe be an attorney, but either way, whatever job category it is.
As long as they're happy.
I hope they work together and also continue, the fruits of all of our labor up here, because it's for Walton Beach 2.0. Here we go. So thank you.
Thank Mr. Smith?
Do we have any more info about the Greyhound bus stop at the Shell station? We use it for fuel at my dealership. I actually just told my employees that we need to start using another fuel station because every time they go down there, it seems like they have to fight a bus load of people that just got dropped off to get inside the building, to get everything paid up, and words from them, they definitely are being shipped here from somewhere else, and they are homeless, vagrants, I don't know, but somebody is continuing to ship them into our community. So I want to know where we're at, what we can do we have any authority, you know?
Well, why don't, I'll tell you this, I don't have any updated information, but we will work on that this week, and Tuesday in our workshop, we will give, we'll have some updates for you and some steps we can do in that discussion.
Okay. That's the only bus stop that I'm aware of. You guys don't know if there is another one in town anywhere, do you?
To my knowledge, that's the only one that we have.
Okay. I had something else that was on the forefront of my mind, and
While you're thinking about it, can I ask a follow-up question to what you
No.
just mentioned? All right. Mr. Mayor? Is it all right if I ask a follow-up question?
Go ahead.
And I know the hour's getting late, but aren't y'all bringing us back at the end of April meeting what we legally can do with that Greyhound service?
Yes, but I think we're going to talk about it at the workshop first from what the city manager just said, and then.
Okay, gotcha.
Well,
Okay.
we'll give you some updates of where we're coming from, what we can do, and then we'll.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
but
then I
either
guess
way,
you can give us
it's in the motion.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
we'll go ahead and go to Payne then.
Brandon came up here, I thought he was still here, he's not, but I know we've all mentioned it before, and that for all of us, when we get a citizen complaint, as much as I'd love to be able to personally walk them down here and tell them who and all that kind of stuff, that fwb.org, report a problem, click it, and it's roads and safety, and that nail that's sticking up, whatever it is, it's so simple. So Brandon, if you're listening or watching, send them there, fwb.org, and then click report a problem.
I'm glad you said that if I could. Our 311 app that I got to view for just a little bit, can we get an update on it?
It's C-Click Fix.
C-Click Fix, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a, Logan, you want to give an update? Look, Logan has done the heavy lifting on this, and
It's close.
He's the professional at it.
Yeah, so it'll be launched on Monday. We did a soft launch to test it. I did a couple of tests just around the sports complex out back, and everybody got all the information. So we're just cleaning up some email stuff, and we're gonna push it out Monday to the public.
Just to kind of give the public an idea of what that is, it's actually an app that you can download outside of just using the website. You'll actually be able to take pictures and interact and message back and forth with staff and stuff like that and get updates. So just kind of to help the communication back and forth, because we know that there's issues in the city, and we also know that if you guys know about them, you jump on them and you fix them pretty darn quick. So
Yeah, you just take a picture, and it'll geo-track where you're at, and it'll go to the people who need to see it. And then you don't have to download the app either, you can do it on the website. It's actually going to replace the report problem, so it'll be embedded on our website for you to use it.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker?
That was all I had.
All right. Since I have no voice left,